Okay, well, it is 9 o'clock, and we do welcome everyone to today's Board of Commissioners meeting. This meeting is being held by video conference. However, Henry TV will be live streaming online as well as on Channel Spectrum Channel 180. It will be shown, and of course, we're on Facebook Live. So those who did want to sign up for public comment were requested to sign up yesterday by 5 o'clock so that we could make sure that all of our public comments were welcomed as well. So at this time now, we'll begin with the invocation by Mr. Nash.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity, God. Another day that you have created, God. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Lord, we continue to pray for all those people in our community that's suffering from COVID-19. Lord, we know you're still a healer and you're in the blessing business. God, we ask you to be with this meeting as we endeavor to do the work of this great county. And in everything, God, we do, we will give you praise, honor, and glory. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you. And I ask that you would please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will now call the Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, September the 1st to order. At this time, we will check to see, are there any changes to the published agenda? Seeing none, the floor is now open for a motion to accept the agenda. I see a motion by Commissioner Barnes. And a second, I think I saw by Commissioner Holmes' hand raised first. Any comments or questions?
Chairwood, the item that we have for the acceptance of the grant, can that be moved to a consent agenda item, or do we need to have discussion on the acceptance of the grant?
Okay, if you want to make a motion in that regards, we can decide and vote upon that. So we've made a motion and a second, and there's a question about whether or not we can move the acceptance of a grant to a to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments to do so? Any concerns? If you do, please raise Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, which grant you talking about?
There's a public safety grant in the amount of $797,000 from FEMA that our fire department needs to accept. And unless staff, I was trying to see if staff had a reason why if it was a situation where we needed to discuss it, have public comment about it. That was my question.
Yeah, I'd like to put it on the regular agenda if you would. And I'm looking at the consent agenda, and looks like Parks and Recs had 2 items. Let me get back down to where I'm using a different. 2 items. We're looking at a resolution awarding the bid for the fire sprinklers over the Nash Farms. I'd like to remove that from the consent agenda. Put it on the regular agenda, please.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second to accept the agenda. We've got a request now to move the, actually is item 7A to the consent agenda. And then we've got an item from the consent agenda, and we're going to vote on those separately. And then the consent agenda, which item is that you were referring to, Commissioner Wilson? Oh, item, under Parks and Direction, item B?
B, yes.
Okay.
Chairwood, I wasn't finished.
Okay. Okay, I had to open it up to the board after you made your question, so we can come back to you. So yes, Commissioner Clinton.
So you would need to move all of Parks and Rec stuff, A and B, not just B, if you're going to move B.
Okay. Okay, so we've had a motion and a second, but what I'd like to do now is vote on the recommendations for the change of the agenda separately. There was a request to move item 7A to the consent agenda. We'll take a vote upon that. So there was, again, Commissioner Clemens made the motion to move that item to the consent agenda. Is there a second to do so? Okay, Commissioner Thomas made the second. Okay, any further discussion about moving that item? Okay, we had a motion and a second. All in favor of moving item 7A, the resolution accepting the assistance to firefighters grant to the consent agenda. All in favor, please do raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those that oppose? 2. Okay, so that will be moved to the consent agenda. And then the next item was to move all of the items from the consent agenda under Parks and Recreation. One was the A resolution to authorize the lease of golf carts necessary to operate the Cotton Fields Golf Course. And then 2, the resolution awarding bid to fire systems for the Nash Farm Cultural Arts Building. So that was a motion to move those from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. Is there a second? Okay, we have a second. All in favor? Any discussion on that?
Yeah, he made the first. He can't make the first and second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for that observation. Okay, so thank you. So Commissioner, so is there a second? Okay, there is a second. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of moving those items from the consent agenda to the regular agenda, please raise by signaling your hand. Okay, that looks to be unanimous. So thank you. Those items will be moved from the consent agenda and moved to just right after the consent agenda. And then we'll add, okay, so now we've had those changes. One, to move the item, the grant for the firefighters to the consent agenda, and the Parks and Recreations from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. We'll now accept a motion to accept the agenda with those changes. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Thomas, and then I saw a second by Commissioner Barham. Any further discussion regarding the agenda? All in favor of those changes, please raise your hand. Okay, that seems to be unanimous. Okay, thank you, and we appreciate that. We'll now move into, yes, I'm sorry.
This is County Manager Matthews. I want to make sure that you're able to see the screen that says Henry County Management. I know we have a lot of screens that are open, but I would ask that if you are not presenting, for you to log off so that you can see the main screen where staff is sitting here presenting. I think we were trying to get your attention. I'm not sure if you can see us on the screen. So do you see, are all of the commissioners able to see the box that says Henry County Management?
I can see it.
Okay, very good. I just want to make sure that you have access to it so that when we're raising our hands, you're able to see us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we will now move. Okay, we'll now move into the agenda. And we do welcome our district attorney to provide an update, Mr. Darius Patillo. So we welcome you, Mr. Patillo.
Good morning, commissioners, Chairwoman. Good to see you this morning. I just want to discuss briefly this morning. It's just an update from the DA's office, just as to what's going on in the courts as well as in our office in particular. As this board knows, the courts have continued to function in Henry County and operate despite the COVID pandemic. We've been able to conduct all sorts of virtual court. We've had virtual meetings, of course. We've had motions by Zoom. We've conducted bond hearings. We've had probation revocation cases that were able to go forward despite everything that we've all been dealing with. We've been able to even have pleas in our court system virtually throughout this process. So I'm happy to report and proud to say that the court systems in Henry County have done an exceptional job throughout this pandemic. And we are committed to continuing to do that, particularly in Superior Court. However, we have not been able to conduct certain types of activities in the court system just due to space limitations and social distancing challenges. We have not been able to conduct jury trials, as you know, and we have not been able to convene grand juries for the last 6 months due to those things I just mentioned. As a result, we, like every other circuit in the state, we're going to face a significant backlog after we reopen those functions in the court system. And we're basically at that point. There was an article in the AJC just yesterday where Justice Melton talked about us reopening grand juries as early as this month. His emergency judicial order that affects all the court systems in the state will effectively expire this month on the 10th. And he's also telegraphed that come October, he's looking to reinstate jury trials across the state. Because that's going to happen, particularly in Henry County, we have about 489 cases that are ready for presentment to the grand jury. And once that function is opened up, and keep in mind, those 489 cases, those are going to be our more significant felonies in our county. And we're talking about murder cases, rapes, armed robberies, aggravated batteries, gang cases, burglaries, child molestations. And that's not even including all of the hundreds of non-violent felonies that we'll have to present to the grand jury at the appropriate time. We're talking, and when I say non-violent felonies, we're talking your thefts, we're talking your drug possessions and things of that nature. I'm working with Judge Holly Veal right now and our Superior Court Task Force to figure out how we can reestablish and reconvene the grand jury in a safe way. We're looking at trying to institute a virtual grand jury. We're working steady to try and make that happen as soon as possible because we are going to cut through this backlog very, very quickly and efficiently. As you will recall, I was before this body in February of this year prior to the COVID shutdown. And at that time, I requested 3 positions to be funded by this body so that we can effectively and efficiently prosecute cases involving crimes against children and domestic violence cases, as well as homicide and gang cases. Those funds were not included in the district attorney's fiscal year 2021 budget. In fact, our budget didn't increase at all by a single dollar. We needed those positions prior to the COVID shutdown, but we're going to really need those positions at this point, given that we do have the 6-month backlog. So I would just point out to this board that those positions that I requested in February are really, really critical at this point. I know all of you are committed to public safety, especially when it comes to protecting the most vulnerable members of our community. So I just view it as my job and responsibility to let you know what our needs are, to make sure that you're clear on what we have and what we need and what we've done. As you all know, I'll never come to you and ask for anything that we don't need to keep our community safe. So that's basically why I'm here today, just to re-request that these 3 positions get funded. And those positions specifically are 2 attorneys and 1 investigator, 1 attorney for crimes against children and domestic violence cases, 1 attorney for gang and homicide cases, and an investigator to support both of those attorneys as we prosecute those cases. I'll pause now just in case there are any questions.
Okay, I do. I saw Commissioner Thomas. So Commissioner Thomas, if you'll begin with your question, please.
Thank you, Mr. DA, for giving us an update today. It's one that I really wanted and appreciate you presenting before this board. One of the things I do remember is having quite a bit of a discussion about your department. And one of the reasons we did was because we added 20 additional police officers to the last budget. And we were concerned about the fact by having those additional police officers that your office would need the ability to function, having more security and more opportunities for them to write additional tickets, not just tickets, but investigations. So I'm concerned that you did not get any increase in your budget when it was approved. So my question goes back to management. I need to have management give me some type of update or some reason why, as commissioner, have voted to make sure we support this department in its full fashion. And I know you have hired other people in other areas, in other departments. So why this is not funded? My question goes to management.
Okay, we'll allow our county manager to respond.
And Sherwood, can I ask that people mute their lines? I'm having a really hard time hearing the comments. There's a lot of background noise in the background. So I think I caught the beginning of her request in terms of why the positions were not approved for the DA. And I want to remind the board that when we adopted the budget, remember, we had to push back on a number of requests due to the uncertainty of COVID. This board did ask that we bring the budget back in January to look at those positions and any other things that were not approved, but we did hold all of our budgets at their mid-year numbers. And so it was not just the DA that had requests. There were requests from our solicitor's office and from other functions of the court as well that were not approved as a result of us holding back to see where we were going to be from a financial standpoint. I've been in conversation with Angie Sorrow, who oversees our budgets in terms of the court system, and advised her to advise all of the individuals at the courts that we are getting ready to kick off in October our budget amendment process, which is where we will consider those positions at that time. But Commissioner Thomas, at this point, what we've done is, again, held every department at their mid-year numbers in hopes that we will have a successful year as we continue to proceed through this budget. I don't think there was any intent on not approving the positions, but at the same time, we had a lot of uncertainty at the time that we were adopting our budget. And if you'll recall, we held off on a number of requests that came through as a result. But again, this board did ask that we were to bring this budget back to you all in January. And so if that is still a desire of Mr. Patillo, we will consider his positions as we consider all of the other positions within the budget. Also, I want to make sure the board also understands, and Mr. Patillo can certainly echo this, this is the first time that we haven't approved positions for the DA. Every year that requests have come in for the DA, we have assisted him in approving those positions and specifically in setting up new initiatives that he has within his respective unit. And so I certainly understand the importance of what his requests are, but we've got to also make sure that we're looking across the board. And then finally, I want to remind the board that we did receive approval for our 4th judgeship, which is going to, then it will also give the DA and some other departments some additional positions that we've got to get funded for. So I just wanted to, I hope that answers your question. And if not, I'll certainly try to answer some more.
Okay, Commissioner Thomas.
Let's see, am I unmuted?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. It does give me an explanation to a certain degree. I think my concern is, I know that we have added some positions during COVID. We have filled some positions that we may have waited on. I want to make sure when we're making decisions of this nature that we're categorizing what positions can be placed on hold and what positions need to be filled. Public safety is one thing here in Henry County we do not, and we try our best not to compromise. We have shown that in support of our police department. We have shown that in support of equipment that we bought for public safety, and we've shown that in support of our judicial system. So I'm wondering if indeed we need to determine how to categorize different positions, what positions can be placed in a hold, and what positions should not be placed in hold based on the needs of the county. That's important. And the second thing is, I know we grouped together saying that we're going to put a hold on certain things. And in that group, it was not defined to the commissioners. We just knew that you all were going to do some things. We need to get reports to make it known how you're going to make these groupings take place, how you're going to make those decisions or recommendation to us, but not let us find it out. Oh, this was in the group, that was in the group, this was in the group. That needs to be done ahead of time. At least give us some type of work session to discuss it, because I do support the initiatives of the DA. And one of the things he stated when he started this back when we did our budget hearings was that he was going to be a DA that looks at domestic violence, protect our children, protect our homes. Those areas that families in Henry County really do want to make sure that we're watching out for and not overlooking. So again, I appreciate your answer, but I don't appreciate the way that we're getting to this. It should have been done another way, in my opinion. And I don't want to wait much longer to talk about when we're going to fund those. You say you're going to bring this back to us in October. If bringing it back to us in October may mean an approval, what time period? If not, we need to look at putting forth some type of resolution to give him the help that he needs to get through this COVID pandemic, so that he can do the work that he needs to do for this county.
So Commissioner Thomas, just as a follow-up, one of the things that we talked about after 3 budget hearings with the board was holding off on all new positions. I think the DA can agree that he had some vacancies that we went ahead and let him proceed with. And so what we've done is that if there were vacancies that were in the works pre-COVID, in the middle of COVID, we've allowed those positions to be filled. But in terms of new positions, we are holding on those because there is a lot of uncertainty. At the time that we adopted our budget, we were right in the middle of COVID. We weren't sure how we were going to be able to return to the offices. We weren't sure what it would look like. So I certainly hear you. What we will do, what we try to do is make sure that we're providing you all with the information that you need. But in terms of the needs of the DA, that's an operational issue that should come through the county manager's office that I will then share with the board in terms of whether there is a need to add those additional positions. Now, if the board determines, and again, we are starting this process in October, it's going to be similar to the budget kickoff that we had for this current fiscal year, where you all received a memorandum outlining dates, outlining meetings, outlining everything that you all need to have to make those decisions. But I ask that if there's any personnel matters, those personnel matters, we have a process that works internally. I think the DA was asked to present to the board and just to give an update. And so certainly we want to work with the DA and anyone else that has needs. But outside of the DA, there are also a number of other departments in our judicial center that has the same requests. And so we have to be very consistent in how we handle the request and making sure that it's within the budget that you all have approved. You all have charged us with making sure that we stay within our means, and that's what we're trying to do. But also keep in mind, Commissioner Thomas, we have a lot of other expenses that have come up that have been unbudgeted expenses that we've had to prepare for. And so when we have unbudgeted expenses, that kind of dampens what we are able to do from a personnel perspective. What I will do is commit that we will provide to you all, if not quarterly, monthly, an update on the number of new hires we have, the positions that we have, and vacancies that we have, because that is information that is provided to our management team monthly. So I can definitely make sure that information is provided. And then I'll also make sure that the October kickoff, that you all have the information that you need. And if at all possible, let's schedule a workshop meeting to talk about what's in the budget and what the amendments are. So I will definitely take your recommendations and make sure that we do present to you all what you need so that you can make a sound decision when we look to amend the budget in January.
Okay, Commissioner Thomas. Okay, I'm going to go next, and then I think I see Commissioner Clemens. First of all, Mr. DA, thank you so much for all that you're doing and highlighting what has occurred during COVID-19 and the challenges that you're facing. And so we appreciate all of you doing in your system and your court to really help us remain safe. I did want to the county manager say I had some of the similar questions, but glad to hear that we will be soon kicking off an update, not just to identify critical needs in our DA's office, but with all the other court systems as well, and any other critical matters that specifically have been impacted by COVID-19. What I would also ask, I don't know, as we continue to advocate for CARES Act funding, if some of these backlogs and challenges that we are experiencing due to COVID-19, if those could be qualified items for CARES Act. I don't know, but that is a question that I have. If you are not prepared to discuss that today, I understand that. I do request, based on what Commissioner Thomas has recommended, that we do plan for a workshop, not just for the budget kickoff, but for some other items that this board needs to be prepared to discuss, so that we're able to make informed decisions and to also be updated on matters that are impacting us. So thank you much. And thank you, DA. Thank you, County Manager. I saw Commissioner Clemens with her hand raised. Commissioner Holmes, your mic is unmuted. Did you have something we need to add after Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll go to Commissioner Clemens, and then we'll come back to Commissioner. We'll come to Commissioner Clemens, and we'll go to Commissioner Holmes. Commissioner Clemens.
Share initial budget that you presented to us. It's a couple of things that I need to cover. The initial budget that your team presented to us, we agreed on that budget initially. It was the budget that included all of the positions in it. So what I would like to see is, instead of using the word "we will consider these things," that we will go ahead and fund them as we approved them initially before we decided to hold on our budget, our mid-year budget piece. So just to keep that in mind, that was something that we had already approved, we were already in agreement on. And so those items should just be presented before us to move forward with those. But I think the issue here today is the process in which department heads were made aware about their budget. And so I would ask that staff put a process in place that when a department present a budget to you and you guys internally or with this board decide not to accept the budget as presented, or cut the budget, or not fund the budget, that you would respond to that department head saying your budget has been approved as presented, or that it has not, what has been taken out and why. The DA had that information presented to him saying, hey, you requested these positions, they're not going to be funded due to COVID-19. The Board of Commissioners made a decision to hold. We will revisit this in October. I don't think he would be here today. So I think that the process and communication is a huge part of why we're dealing with this today, and I would like to see that corrected going forward. And so I think every department at this time is what I'm requesting you do, is to send them something if their budget was not approved, if their budget has been placed on hold, and let them know what our process is. Because what's going to happen is when we go back and start talking about this again, they're going to say they did not know why are some positions being funded and others are not. But there were some positions that were already supposed to be funded.
Okay, anything else, Commissioner Clemens?
No, that's it. Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure that Sherry walked away. I want to make sure that she's clear on the process that I'm asking her to implement.
Yes, Commissioner Clemens, and the process that you've outlined is exactly what we did this year. Every department received a notification of what they were approved for, the decision that was made by the board. All of that immediately went out, because I think last year you all expressed concerns about the departments not being aware. So yes, we've done all of that. What I will do is resend out what's already gone out, but that information has been provided to every department.
So then that's the question for the district attorney, because I think I asked that question. Did you, district attorney, did you get an email or a letter stating that those positions were going to be placed on hold until January or until October?
He's muted.
You're on mute,
Okay,
sir.
you're muted. Mhm.
I would have to look back at my correspondence. There may have been something that have gone out. I'm not in a position to dispute that. But what I can say that is that when we got that communication, we were well into COVID, I would think. But don't quote me on that. But here's the thing, and this is where I always get somewhat confused and frustrated, is because every year when we have the budget process, the DA's office does everything that we're required to do and asked to do to make our requests. Every year, even in the years where we are put under extreme pressure and timelines. Like there have been times we've heard on a Monday or a Wednesday that we need X by Friday, and we'll stop everything that we're doing to make sure that we get that done. And we crunch all the numbers, we put the charts and the graphs in, we try to do it in a timely fashion. I'm very proactive about coming to any and everybody at the beginning of the year so that I fully understand what the budget process is going to be, so that I make sure that we do it exactly the way management wants it done, exactly the way the board wants it done, and we comply with that. I don't know if other agencies and departments do that, but we do that. And I have my people drop things. We're not just sitting around twiddling our thumbs. So when people call us and say, we need this and we need done this, we need it this quickly, we stop what we're doing to get it done. And what it feels like sometimes is that information goes into a black hole. I feel like sometimes, like in this instance, I got on top of this at the beginning of the year just to make sure that everybody understands what the DA's office need is, because I don't want anyone to ever say that, oh, we didn't know. We come to every meeting because I know how that works. So people will say, well, we had this meeting, albeit impromptu or suddenly, and they didn't show up. So we drop everything, we come, we comply. And just like this past February, we came, we presented, we crunched all the numbers, we sent in all the paperwork. And in February, I talked to this body and everybody seemed to be on board. The first thing out of my mouth in February when I met with you was I need these 3 positions for X, Y, and Z reasons. I then went into, I understand that we're going to get a 4th judge, and in which case the board is going to have to fund some subsequent positions to help support that 4th judgeship. But my understanding was that those positions were going to be, were necessitated if we were to get a 4th judge. First thing that they requested were these 3 positions that we're talking about right now. That was in February. That was before COVID. I didn't learn that we weren't getting those positions until we were well into COVID. And that is why I'm here right now, just to re-request the things I asked for in February. Now, my understanding that those positions were never recommended to the board. I know there's a PowerPoint or a presentation recommendations that were made to this board that's dated March 10th, which was pre-COVID. And in that PowerPoint that was presented to this body, presumably had several lists. These positions are included. Departments, these positions are not included. The 3 positions I'm talking about right now were not included in those budget recommendations to this board. That information was not conveyed to me on March 10th or any time before that. So between February and March 10th, I heard nothing from anybody that you're not getting these positions, but not only that, that we're not recommending these positions for you. I learned that because of some of my own sources. I don't even know if I'm supposed to have this information. So that's another thing that's kind of unclear. But I do have that information. And these 3 positions that we're talking about right now are not in that document as included. In fact, they specifically say they're not included. All I'm saying is that information was not conveyed to me. So that's, I still need those positions. If there's a reason why I can't get those positions, that I would just like for that to be articulated and be given a forum in which to have a conversation about that. Because I understand, so when we talk about these positions were budgeted or taken out or recommended, my position is they were never recommended. They were never in my budget. And I learned that after we were well into COVID. I don't know how and why that happened that way. I'm just here to tell you from my perspective, that's what happened. And I owe it to my constituents, to my staff. I owe it to victims of crime. I owe it to people who are accused of crime to zealously advocate for my department. And I will do that every day I'm in this position. I understand that there's an entire county to run. The DA's office is not asking for preferential treatment. We're asking for what we need in good faith. Because, you know, what's frustrating to us, everybody has a different perspective. I respect that. But my perspective is not about just numbers. The numbers are important, yes. But what we're dealing with, we're counting bodies, human beings, careers. You know, just this month in COVID, I got a teacher who allegedly got his teenage step granddaughter pregnant in our community. I got a man performing oral sex on 3 siblings and a special needs woman. A man who is performing sexual acts on 2 special needs women he met in the playground in an apartment complex. I got a case where 3 counts of rape on a 14-year-old. A case with 30 counts of child pornography in Hampton, Georgia. A domestic violence case where a man severed a lady's arm off with a machete. And that's the last 30 days. That's not including the cases we had prior to COVID. That's not including the cases that are sitting in our office waiting to be presented to grand jury. And those aren't homicides. I mean, we want to talk homicides during COVID. I got a brother-on-brother alleged mutilation case, a love triangle murder in McDonough, an elderly female homicide in Hampton. a domestic violence case where an Uber Eats driver was kidnapped and taken down to Locust Grove and killed. And then there was a hostage situation with a young lady, the same incident, where she was raped and sexually assaulted. Got a man who killed his step grandson. He shot him twice after shooting other family members in the home. And on April 8th, we had the case where the college basketball player and some of his friends killed one of the cousins of one of the young men. This is all during COVID. So I don't say these things to scare you. We have a very safe community. I try not to get into the graphic nature of this. That's just a snapshot. So what I'm saying is that perspective from which I come when I ask for these things. And we only have one office that can handle these cases from a prosecution standpoint, and that's the DA's office. There's no other agency in this county that can do it. We have 40 folks, and all of them aren't lawyers. We may have 12, 13 lawyers. We only have 2 child abuse prosecutors, but we got 3 courtrooms. We need 1 in each courtroom. I've said that since I've been here. Mm-hmm. So I want this body to understand, and when I come to you, that's what I'm looking at. And if we're talking about the safety of children and protecting domestic violence victims, how much is their safety worth to us? If we can give 20 positions to the police department last year, who's going to prosecute those felony cases that they make? That's my office. So that's all I'm saying. Yes, they needed every one of those positions, but my office is fully staffed. We don't have any openings. And County Manager Matthews is right. We had 1 position that was vacant during COVID. It was a victim advocate position, and she graciously allowed us to fill that position during the COVID. That's true. So I'm just asking for what we need. That's the perspective from which I come. I am zealous in the management of this office, as zealous as I am in the prosecution of cases of people who, folks in our community. I will always be that way, regardless of how that may look to some. That's what I was elected to do. My view is that this board, this county, the management staff, their job is to help me do what my constituents want me to do. So I shouldn't have to figure this out every year. The budget process shouldn't be vary every year. Last year, I filled out some forms and was told, well, we're not going to use these forms next year so don't even worry about it. Why you keep pointing at these forms? Because these are the forms y'all told me to fill out, and I filled them out. We're not going to use these forms next year, so we don't have to worry about that right now. Guess what? Well, the next year comes, and I'm still filling out the same forms. They were sent to me. Oh, isn't that ironic? So what I'm saying is I'm just looking for, because in my office, we're the lawyer types. We're going to do it the way you want it done every time. We want the goalposts to continue to change every time. And we want good communication. But I don't care about any of that. I want results. I just want the personnel that we need to do this work. I'm not asking for this for me. This is for the community. This is what we want, because God forbid something happens to somebody we know, a child. You want somebody who specializes in child abuse cases handling that. You don't want a guy who's only handled burglaries and robberies and things like that when you got an uncle who's molested, sodomized, and performed oral sex on a niece. When all of your cases deal with child victims. We should be forward-looking and innovative in Henry County. And as DA, committed to being that.
All right, well, we thank you, DA, again. I know we're going to go to Commissioner Holmes. Is there any additional details that you'd like to share before we just, again, allow the commissioners to speak? And then, of course, we think about a forward movement from here. We've already got a couple of action items, but is there anything else, Mr. DA, before we, again, go to Commissioner Holmes and open it up to the rest of the board for this segment of the agenda?
No, Madam Chair, I appreciate you and I appreciate this board for always supporting us in the things that we've needed. I appreciate the county management because they have helped us with some things in the past. but I'm not one to rest on. Every year comes new challenges. They're challenges we've yet to meet. And I'm committed to meeting it. Others have told me they're committed to it. Now it's time to do the work. Now it's time to put deeds to the words. So I ask this board to give us what we're asking for in the name of public safety, and I appreciate your time, your patience, and attention.
All right, thank you. And thank you again for that much detailed update and passion and commitment to the safety of our children in our community. Okay, so at this time, we're going to open it up for board for comments. I know we'll go now to, I'm sorry, if everyone could mute your phones if you're not speaking, we're going to go to
Chair.
phones. Commissioner.
Yes. So basically, I was going to say, I'm not sure why we're having this debate. And I'll be honest, it seemed like over the last 3 or 4 years, ever since Darius has become DA, that we have had issues with funding his department. Darius's department is part of public safety, and his department should be treated the way we treat the police department, the way we treat the fire department, and every other department that is part of public safety. If we approve these positions in the budget, they should be approved. This department is very critical to prosecuting crime. And I think that this is something that needs to be done right away, not wait until October and not wait until the 1st of next year to bring these positions on board. We already know there's going to be a backlog. There's no grand jury going on right now. There's virtually no court going on right now. So I want to make a proposal that we move forward with funding these positions.
Chair, you're muted.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Holmes. We'll now go to Commissioner Thomas, and then, of course, I've got comments as well. So Commissioner Thomas, if you'll now unmute. Thank you.
Well, really, I was taking Commissioner Holmes' statement as a motion to move forward, and I was seconding that motion. So when we're ready, I'm ready to second that motion to move forward today. As stated earlier, I support this, and we need to move forward. I don't want to wait till October.
And that was a motion.
Wait a minute. Just a moment, Commissioner Holmes. Commissioner Thomas, are you done with your comments? Okay, we'll have to amend the agenda if in fact we will vote, so we'll have to come back to that. So Commissioner Clemens, your comments.
And back again to what I was saying that prompted the DA to have his conversation about the process. Sherry was saying that she sent out an email saying that positions were or were not funded. And he's saying that he got word that his positions was never funded, but that was never told to the DA department. So at this time, I guess what we need to do is fund the positions and fund them today. So it's not about moving forward with the October stuff. These positions were never funded. So this is a request to fund the 3 positions. I just want to be clear that we're following the process with that. Sherry, okay. Is that correct? That you never funded the position? So this will be a request to fund it.
Commissioner Clemens, I will need to pull that information. And with all due respect, I didn't know that we were talking this morning about the budget for the DA, or I would have been more prepared to provide this information. I was told that there was going to be an update to the board regarding the DA. So in fairness to our team, I want to make sure that the board has all of the information. So, and I don't want to go back and forth because the DA and I have had a very good working relationship. But what I know for a fact is that every year the DA's budget has increased, and everything that he's asked for, he's been given, with the exception of this year in the middle of the pandemic. We have all of the requests for positions that he's asked for, that has been granted. But I want to make sure that you all have all of the information. There is no desire not to give the DA or any other department what they need or what their desires are. But also keep in mind, commissioners, and I understand the DA and what he does and what his job is in the cases that he's fighting. But we have been in the middle of a pandemic, which has also incurred a lot of expenses, not just within the DA's office, but across the board. We have spent money retrofitting positions, adding computers, making it where the DA can work from home, where they can telework, where they can handle their cases. And so I want some consideration to be given to that. Now, if the board wants to approve these 3 positions, All I will say is that there is a host of other positions within the judicial system that they're holding for the same approval. And I just want to make sure that you all have all of the information to make a decision. We will have to amend the budget because these positions have not been budgeted. And so we will need to do a budget amendment to do that. And if you all could give us an opportunity to sit down, figure out what those needs are, and then bring you all a resolution. If there's a desire not to wait until October, we'll bring a budget amendment to the board approving it, but we've got to follow the process. I just ask that we follow our process so that we have a clean system or clean record when we go to move forward.
Chair Wood,
Excuse me, Commissioner Clemens still has the floor. Then we'll go to Commissioner Barr. We'll come to me, then Commissioner Barr, and then Commissioner Wilson. So Commissioner Clemens still has the floor.
and even back from before, I think that looks like everybody's missing my point here. The DA's positions, we all thought were included in the budget. I know that I thought that they were included in the budget. What I'm hearing today is that these things never made it to our budget. And that's what alarms me, that they never made it to our budget, that there was no regard for the fact that these positions had come before us in February when we sat up there in our board discussions and we had all of the departments to present to us. We all stated afterwards how important this was to us, why we thought this was important to have these positions, and it never made it to the budget. I did not know that it never made it to the budget until today, when the district attorney said that they never made it to the budget when we voted in March, which means that they were cut out even before they came to this board. And so my concern is that if you're going to cut something out before it comes to this board, then there should be something given to that department head stating that it's been cut out. And since it was cut out, we did not agree for it to be cut out. We were not aware that they were cut out. We need to visit adding it to the budget now. And so I just want to be clear. I understand this is before COVID. We can't lump COVID into this, and we can't lump this into the other positions that were placed on hold because of COVID. This is not a COVID position.
No, and Commissioner Clemens, I want to make sure the board understands the budget process. Because if you all will remember, when we initially received all of the budget requests, it's everything that every department wants. And there is a process. And so as we start in the initial request, those positions may have been included. But as we start going through the budget, as the board starts saying, hey, look, this is where I think we need to be, because we've had several conversations, not only with the department head, but also with you all in terms of where you all expect this budget to be. We had meetings with every commissioner. We had meetings with every staff. So I can't speak to whether the DA received the information or not. I can tell you that on all correspondence that went out, every department was made aware of what they were approved for, what they weren't approved for. And if he didn't receive it, I'm not sure why he didn't receive it, but every department received that information. Now, if I remember correctly, last week, there was a question posed by Commissioner Thomas to Ms. Sorrow regarding these three positions. And I guess this may be a question, Chairwood, if you don't mind me asking to the DA. I understood that he could wait until January for the positions. So now I'm a little confused on, can he wait till January or do we need these positions now? Because the correspondence I have indicates that we can wait until January, which is at the time that we will be looking at all of the budgets.
We'll hope, this is board discussion right now. So what I'd like to do is for you and the DA to can help address all the questions, because we're going to have a conversation about this, even if it's a special call meeting, if the vote does not pass today. So there obviously are lots of conversation and lots of discussion. Let me make sure Commissioner Clemens is done. I want to speak, then we go to Commissioner Barman. I saw Commissioner Wilson. So Commissioner Clemens, did you have any other thoughts of conversation?
I think the county manager understands.
Okay. All right. Well, my thoughts is that this is a very significant matter that needs to be addressed, and it's not just for the DA's office; it's for the other courts, it's for any other critical matter of what is needed for this business of keeping our community safe. The second thing I would say is that apparently our county management needs to get some time to pull all of the information together, not just on what we need for our immediate needs with our court system, but we also need to get a summary of what unbudgeted costs have occurred since the approval of the budget. We also need to have a summary of what items that were proposed in the budget that the Board of Commissioners approved that has not moved forward. That is another aspect of the information. I heard Commissioner Holmes' motion earlier. We're still going to come back to that in a few minutes, but I would like this board to also entertain a special call meeting so that we can make an informed decision with all of the facts. And again, it sounds like we've got to work on the process issue. And I just ask all department heads, if you've got any concerns or questions or about a process, please talk to the county manager so that we're able to work through that and bring it to the board if necessary, or to allow the process to work better. So those are questions that I think that we need to continue to improve upon. So at this time now, we'll go to Commissioner Barham, then Commissioner Wilson. So Commissioner Barham, your comments.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I feel Darius's frustration, and we need to fund these positions. But I do believe that we need to give it a little time and let the county manager get with all these department heads and all the people of responsibility to come up with a plan and how we gonna pay for it, how we gonna fund it, and I support moving forward, but at this time I cannot support it until we have that special call meeting that you're requiring, and we filter through all this with all the court system, like you said, with all our employees. We've got to let our county management team know. I don't know if Darius has had a conversation with Sherry recently about this or not, but I would hope that they would have some conversations amongst themselves. But we need to move forward. But at this time, I think a special call meeting, find out from the county manager. I'd like to know from you, county manager, how long would it take you to put a plan together to bring back to us that would address all these issues?
Okay, so thank you for your comments. Commissioner Wilson, and then I have another comment. Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Barham basically covered everything I was going to speak of, and it's allowed. And of course, I do understand your request, Mr. Patillo, and I think that the county management team and the budgeting staff needs to get together and see how we're going to do this. And I will support a special call meeting as well. And so that's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to be clear. I am definitely in support of funding these positions and any other public safety positions. So I would say that whenever we have those discussions, that it is the DA's office, but it's the other court system, and it is anything else that is impacting our public safety here of our citizens. The examples that the DA just made a note of are very serious. I do understand that we're in a COVID-19, so I don't still understand how we're going to be able to move forward still with well, I guess we did, the DA did explain earlier that the courts will begin to open up. But again, it seems like we've got a backlog that definitely needs to be addressed sooner than later. All right, I see Commissioner Holmes, and then we're going to go back to the motion that he made. Go back to whether or not the agenda should be amended to include his motion. So Commissioner Holmes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we're all talking about informed decisions. However, this issue was discussed in the initial budget. The presentations were already made. It already came to the Board of Commissioners. We already initially voted to fund those positions. And like Commissioner Clemens said, I had no idea that those positions weren't included in the initial budget. So, it seems like we're just trying to kick the football down the road when public safety in the courts, everything starts with the DA's office. Without the DA's office, you can't prosecute serious crime. And he's just simply asking for 3 positions that will help keep our citizens safe. So I'm not exactly sure why we're debating this issue when we have thousands of people tuning in and thousands of people that want to keep this county safe. And we have a great DA that has been able to prosecute crime, but he's prosecuting crime with his hands tied behind his back. So that's the reason why I think it is very important that we move this process forward in terms of funding these positions for DA's office.
Okay, well, thank you. So we've heard comments from commissioners. So at this time, we will, Commissioner Barham, you have a statement because I was about to move to a motion to amend the agenda and take a vote. So Commissioner Barham.
Yes, in my statement a while ago, I didn't get quite an answer. I was asking the county manager, how long would it take for her to put something together for us to have a special call meeting to address this issue?
So Commissioner Barham, we could, if it's a desire of the board to have a special call meeting, you all can certainly do that. I think we need a couple of days to just pull all the information together to determine the needs of all of the courts, because keep in mind, if we add to the DA, we've got to add to the public defender, we've got to add to the solicitor. So it's not a simple process, and it's not a matter of us ignoring the needs of the DA, but it's not just a simple fix. If he's adding people to prosecute those cases, you still got to have those other people to participate in that process. So Commissioner Barham, what we can do is, if it's the desire of the board, if you want to have a special call meeting, give me until, I guess we can work through this week. If you all call something for next week, or we can be prepared to discuss it during our upcoming meeting on September 15th.
Okay, Commissioner Barham.
Yeah, I would like to see us not handle this on a regular meeting night. I think a special call meeting would be appropriate, and the sooner the better. But we need to look at the whole picture. We just set our millage rate, and we need to hear from you how we're going to fund these positions, how it's going to be paid for. We can't be paying for something we ain't got money for. So I just want to make sure, I want to see the whole picture, what we're talking about, and I do support filling these positions. And I don't think a week is too much to ask for us to bring this back, and let's make a decision on this issue. Thank you.
All right, well, my comments, and then I'll go to Commissioner Clemens. I think that we need to do it this week, if at all possible, by Friday. And again, in that, if we have the special call meeting at the pleasure of this board, again, it's the positions for the DA, any other public safety positions. Also would like to know a full perspective of, if this is unfunded, what is that, and all the other unfunded items that will at least allow us to see the full financial picture of how we may potentially impacting our general fund. So if you would include that in that discussion. But again, when we do have the meeting, please confirm whether or not this was included in the budget or not. And again, the information that I just made a mention of. Okay, I saw Commissioner Clemens.
Yes, Chair. I don't see why we need to have a special call meeting. The information that's being presented to us is being presented to us now. Most of you have made up your mind whether you support the district attorney's office or not. This is not about the other departments. This is not about the budget. This is about the citizens and the things that are right now an urgency to our district attorney's office. So I'd rather you just vote. I'd rather have the vote now, as Commissioner Holmes has suggested. Nothing is going to change between now and Friday. And if it is, I would rather hear about what's going to change before we set a time for a meeting. And if we're changing just to add in more positions, more departments, so that everybody can get, whatever they need on the table during this time, then I think that's playing politics. And I think we need to just address the district attorney's office while we have the district attorney here today. And we've heard from the district attorney. But I can tell you, if we're not going to address the district attorney's office today, there's no need to address it on Friday, because your minds won't change until Friday, unless you're just trying to put some other departments in so that you can get those departments in and use the district attorney's urgency to move something else forward that's not urgent.
Okay, well, I'm going to call for question right now, and we'll have a motion and a second regarding a proposal now, and then those who just raise your hands will be able to make comments as well. So at this time, is there a motion to amend the agenda to add a resolution to vote for the funding of the positions for the district attorney's office? So at this time, no, this is the board. I'm managing the meeting right now. We're moving forward with a motion from the board. So at this time, is there a motion?
Chair, we have a motion and a second already.
Okay, so I just wanted to go through the formal process after discussion. So we've had a motion and a second. And is there any further discussion by this board?
But we have,
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes, there is further discussion.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson, you may speak.
So repeat the motion.
The motion, Commissioner Holmes, will you state the motion again?
yeah, so the motion was to approve the 3 positions the DA's office needed.
Okay. But I also heard that putting it off to Friday wasn't going to do anything, because we had our minds made up, not really sure what that meant. And I think every commissioner here.
Excuse me, Commissioner Wilson has the floor. So Commissioner Wilson. Go ahead, Commissioner Wilson.
What I heard, that some commissioners may not be supporting the DA, but I think I heard from all 6 of us, we are supporting the DA. And what we're asking is the county management team to come back with how we're going to make this work. And so I don't know about not supporting the DA. I think every single one of us want to support the DA, and we understand his needs. So
let me restate my motion then. Okay, so.
All right, wait just a moment, Commissioner Holmes. Commissioner Wilson, or do you have any other comments before we move to Commissioner Holmes?
I'll yield the floor to Commissioner Holmes at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Holmes.
So I'll restate my motion to move to fund the 3 positions the DA seeks through fund balance this year, and then next year we can add it to the general fund.
Have a discussion.
All right, any further discussion? Commissioner Wilson, Commissioner Holmes clarified the motion. Any further comments? And then we go to Commissioner Barham, then I saw Commissioner Thomas, and then Commissioner Clemens. All right, Commissioner Wilson.
Okay, we'll go back to what the county manager said. They need time to put this package together, because not only 3 positions, it's going to cause more positions to be approved as well. So I think she asked for a week. I think a week is not going to hurt anything. It's not going to help anything. If we prove them positions today, if we prove on Friday or Monday, I don't think it's going to make a difference. So let's give the county management team time enough to put this package together. We do not need to keep putting things on the agenda to push things through without getting things, information together, because it really puts us in a pickle when we start doing this thing when it comes to budgeting. So I think the county management team needs the time to put it together, and I think a week's plenty of time. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Commissioner, I forget the order that I call. Let's go to Commissioner Clemens, then Barham, and then Thomas.
So, commissioners, out of due respect, the county manager made a statement about if you add all of these positions to the district attorney's office, that it was going to basically be a dominoes effect, and all other departments will need positions. And I think that it's only fair that we allow our district attorney to respond to that, because you're not in the district attorney's office, county manager. And I want to make sure that is accurate information. That's number 1. And number 2, Commissioner Wilson says, how are we going to make this work? Our county manager is very efficient. I think she knows today how we're going to make this work. She doesn't have to wait until Friday to figure it out, or Monday to figure it out, how we're going to make this work. Commissioner Holmes has also made a suggestion. So I would like to hear from the county manager if that would work, what our Commissioner Holmes has stated. And also I would like to hear from our DA in response to you making a statement that if we add these positions, that it's going to cause all other departments to need positions.
All right, county manager.
So I'm not sure if there is really a question, or if you want me to agree with what you're saying, Commissioner Clemens. Are you asking in terms of putting it in motion, could we do it today? This board has the authority to amend the agenda and add anything that you all want to do to our budget, but it will require a budget amendment. I caution against using fund balance, because fund balance should be used for emergency purposes only and should be for one-time expenses. What I've asked this board to do is to give me an opportunity, because I'll be honest with you, Commissioner Clemens, my email is blowing up right now from every other person in the judicial center saying, here are the positions that I need. Here are the positions that I need. And so it will be a ripple effect. Whether the DA asks for it first, there is a ripple effect. I can't, and you are correct, I don't work in the DA's office, but I know that there is some correlation between what the DA does and what the other respective departments do. And what I want to make sure is that we don't have to come back during an update to the board and have a conversation regarding our budget. We're 2 months into our budget, and we really shouldn't be making these type of amendments. If it was a desire of the board to grant those positions, that should have been spelled out when we approved the budget. Keep in mind, commissioners, we started with the budget and we went through a process. And if you all will remember, we specifically talked about, let's go ahead and proceed with filling those vacancies, filling positions that are already there, but let's hold on new positions. That's the guidance that you all gave to me and my team, and that's what we've been following. But to answer the first part of your question, yes, if the board wants to proceed with amending the agenda to add this item, I think it's going to be about I'm throwing out $250,000 for a whole year for the 3 positions. And because it's not a full year, we're looking at about $140,000 for half a year. But again, I would caution against that because you all give me no leverage to now tell any other court or judicial or anyone in the judicial center that they don't have the ability to do the same thing. And there is a process. I want to say that I think, and I know this is long-winded, but I want to make sure that you all understand this year, our budget process was much better than it's been for the last 2 years. The board was fully aware of it. You all were involved in the process. We had timelines. We were communicating that information to the respective departments. And so I want to make sure the board understands that staff didn't drop the ball on this. We were navigating through this process. And while the pandemic may not be a part of this conversation, it absolutely is a part of this conversation because the impact of the pandemic impacts where we are, not only from a county standpoint, but from a revenue standpoint. And so I want to make sure we get that out. But yes, if the board wants to proceed, you absolutely can proceed. And we'll figure out where it's going to come from. Obviously, the motion needs to include an amendment, a budget amendment as well, because we'll need that in terms of our documentation.
Okay.
So the question was, how are we going to make this work? And I'm saying that I think that you know, because what you've said to us is that we were going to come back in January and make all of this work anyway. That's what you said. And so that wasn't just the DA's office. That was all of those positions that had been requested to us that we put on hold for COVID, that we were going to come back in January. So how are we going to make it work in January? Are we going to pull from the fund balance? Because what I understood when we decided to hold was that we were in an uptick on collections. The money was looking good. We were going to have that difference in money. So we were going to have the money to fund the DA's office and all the other positions that were relevant in our court systems that needed to be funded. So I'm saying that you already know, I know that you know how we were going to do that in January. Commissioner Wilson says, how are we going to make this work? Those were his words. And so I said, our county manager already knows how we're going to make this work. Commissioner Holmes made a suggestion, but that may not be what our county manager is recommending, how we make it work. You're not saying a denial, you're just saying a delay, but you already know how we're going to make it work. So my thing is,
okay. Well, if we can, wait, Commissioner, County Manager, if we will, I do want to hear from Mr. Patillo, and then we've got a motion and a second, and this is really just to amend the agenda, okay, for the vote. So I want to remind us of where we are right now as we proceed forward. But no, I need to go to the DA. Then I've got Commissioner Barnes, Commissioner Thomas, and then we'll come to you, Commissioner Holmes. So Mr. DA Patillo, if you will respond to the request that Commissioner Clemens has just made, and then again, we'll move in the order that I just noted. So Mr. DA. You're muted still. I'm sorry. All right. Is there any way that someone can unmute? Okay, there we go.
Thank you. Before this meeting ends, I just want to make sure that I'm very clear to everybody that's here and that's watching that I wouldn't be here in this meeting if I didn't feel like I needed to be. The DA is an objective party in terms of trying to keep the community safe. I wouldn't be here if I felt like the process has worked in the way in which it was supposed to work. I have good communication and good communication skills. My staff is highly competent, my budget staff.
And Mr. DA, can you address the specific question that was made regarding, will, the addition of these positions impact others? That is what we're actually focused on right now. I want to get back to the board to continue this discussion. And then we will move to the motion of that's been on the floor about adding this to the changing the agenda or not. So Mr. DA, if you respond to that question, please.
I will do that, but I have to clarify some things that were said. One is there was a question as to when I received a copy of our budget. That was on July 6th, 2020, well into the COVID shutdown. I received an email from county staff saying that here's a copy of your budget. That was in July. Prior to that, and I've looked through my email since we've been on here, I had not gotten any correspondence as far as I know or that I can find telling me that. So I just want to make that clear. So I don't want anybody to suggest or take away that the process hasn't been followed by the DA's office. We have followed it to the T. I'm not coming here to put this board in a crunch. I'm not coming here.
Thank you, Mr. DA. If you can respond to the question, please, that we're asking regarding the impact of adding these positions to other departments, please.
Yes. So what we know is that there have been other departments funded at times when the DA's office was not consulted. Other public safety departments have gotten things when the DA's office have not gotten the same thing or something at all before. That as far as I know, that may have happened this year. I don't know if this board or the staff told me that no other public safety or court system got nothing in their budgets this year. I don't know that that's a true statement. So the notion that the DA's office can't get something in its budget that it needs because it may impact other people. I totally agree that the courts need to be fully funded. I've been the biggest advocate of that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So what I'm saying to you is I've been the biggest advocate of that. So when I point out the 20 police officers that were given last year, like nobody came and asked the DA's office, well, if we get a police 20 positions, which is going to lead to more arrests, well, how many assistant DAs and investigators will you need to prosecute those cases? That did not happen. So when somebody says that we can't do this for the DA and because it's going to impact somebody else differently, that's not necessarily true. That's happened before.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So at this time, I think you've answered the question. You've clarified, again, the concerns about how the addition of officers impacts your court. And thank you that you clarified again and reemphasized the fact that you're an advocate for all courts. So thank you for that. So I'm going to go back to the board now. I want to hear, again, we'll go through the list and then we'll call for question regarding to amend the agenda to vote on this proposed resolution. So at this time, we go to Commissioner Barnes, then Commissioner Thomas, and then we'll come to Commissioner Holmes. All right, Commissioner Barnes.
Chair.
I ask if everyone would please mute your phone, mute your video if you're not speaking, just to calm down the background noise, and I'll do the same. Thank you.
I think what Commissioner Wilson said and everybody and staff said, and it comes back to we all, 6 of us, support the court system. There's no question about that. I don't think a week's too long to ask to come back and let the county manager get comfortable with this and present something that works for us. And I'm going to support the county manager, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Thomas at this time.
I just want to thank the DA for coming forth and letting us know about what his needs are. And I will say I am one of the people that asked for a report from his office. I have called several offices to find out how they're doing, how things working along in this COVID environment. What's your workload like? And that was courteous to call to let them know that the commissioners are concerned about them as they work through this COVID environment. And yes, as is stated from Commissioner Clemens, these positions were already budgeted in and they were funded. No, we're not looking to talk about every department. That would be something we don't need to do. We're not talking about every department. As I stated earlier, we should classify positions and determine which positions are absolutely needed for the safety of this community. So we can't have every department say, oh, we fund the DA, now fund us, now fund us. That's simply childish. We're looking at a need, and the need is public safety. The DA is simply saying, help me prosecute these cases. And since these positions were already funded in the original budget, it's the reason why I'm ready to move on it now. And there are other areas that are monies that we are not using now because of COVID. And we can move those funds around. We're not moving around with buses now. What's happened to the fundings that we use for that personnel? Where is it? We're not using a lot of our parks and recreations now. Where are those dollars? We can move something around to help our DA. And I don't want us to get lost in the minutia of political politics saying, oh, now other people are going to come. That child who was raped is not worried about other people coming. We need to take care of that situation now. So let's decide what urgency is and follow urgency. And where things need to be placed on hold, let's be leaders and say that needs to be placed on hold. But right now, this DA needs assistance from us. And that's the reason why I've tried twice to move on the motion that Commissioner Holm put up to move, because now the murderer, now the molesters, now the ones who are caught up in abuse because of COVID, they need solutions now. So I'm going to stand and say, I understand the county manager saying, I need a week. But we also know there are positions that are not funded now because of COVID, where monies are available now because of COVID, and we can make it happen. And we kept 40% of the money that came down from COVID from the federal government, 40% of it. So 40% of that money goes back into our general fund to pay back us for some of the incidental expenses that she talked about that we have incurred, which means, again, those are dollars that we can move around to other areas. Because of the significance of this particular item, I'm ready to move on it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Holmes, and then we'll then open the floor. We will take the vote. I've got one comment, and then after Commissioner Holmes, and then we'll take the vote. Commissioner Holmes.
So, I mean, I don't really understand how this conversation got out of control. All we're trying to do is keep Henry County citizens safe by getting the DA's office the positions that he needs. The county manager is experienced. She's been around for a long time. She knows where all the bones are buried. We have the money to fund these positions. I'm okay with other departments coming to the board, presenting just like the DA, and arguing for their requests. And we can make that decision at that time based on importance. This situation is dire. We already have a motion and a second on the table. We can't move past that until we have a vote. So I'm not exactly sure why we're trying to put up another, another resolution. But we have a first and a second that we have to deal with before we can move on.
Very good. So very good summary there, Commissioner Holmes. It has been good discussion, obviously needed discussion because you're making a decision the day of without any notice to this board. So at this time, we've got a motion and a second to amend the agenda to vote for a resolution to fund the 3 positions of the district attorney's office through fund balance.
We don't have a motion in a second. Nobody made a motion to amend the agenda. We still have the motion on the floor to fund the positions.
I thought there was a second, as I've heard, so let me make it official then. Okay, can you restate your motion and then we'll go to the second?
Okay, so my motion is to fund the 3 positions for the DA's office, either using fund balance or any other funding mechanism that the county manager can come up with. That's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion and I see a second from Commissioner Thomas. All right, any further discussion? I'm going to make the statement that I'm not going to vote in favor of this to amend the agenda, primarily because we've heard clearly from our county management that she definitely needs to pull all of this together. I've heard again that we've got items that this is obviously something that we'll have to look at all of our funding sources from. I also know that we've done some, so this board has approved some unfunded items in the last month or two that has not been budgeted as well. And so we've got to look at our financial shot. I do say that we've got to identify the DA's office and any other public safety critical item that needs to be addressed. So that is why I will be voting. And I wanted to make that clear as far as my discussion, because I do agree that it needs to be funded. 1 week is not going to make a huge review of what the budget needs to do. And I hear clearly that the DA says every moment counts. Every moment counts. And I also heard him say that the courts will be opening in a week or so, which is when the thing of the process will be open for those types of trials. So I'm saying let's align it that way. And those are my conversations. So we've heard a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of amending the agenda, please raise your hand.
It's not amending the agenda. This is
Chair,
So we've got to amend the agenda to add the vote of this resolution, because this came to the Board of Commissioners as an update.
Madam Chair,
It did not come to the Board of Commissioners as a resolution, and therefore, when this board takes action, the agenda needs to be amended.
can we hear, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the budget to fund 3 positions. That's the motion and the second, Madam Chair. So we have
No,
to take
the
that vote
motion
for.
on, well, excuse me, Commissioner Holmes, excuse me. Could someone please mute Commissioner Holmes while I speak? Because I've got to get, this is one of the roles of the chairs to keep order. And at this time, and we will accept a motion to amend the agenda to at least vote on the resolution that is being proposed. So at this time, is there a motion to amend the agenda to actually vote on the motion that Commissioner Holmes just clarified? So the floor is open for a motion. I see Commissioner Thomas as a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second to amend the agenda? Okay, there is no vote to amend the agenda. So again, at this time, I would like us to move forward with our next item.
okay, but Chair Wood,
So
can I
thank you much.
need to have a discussion? Is Patrick on the line?
Yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
So, Mr. County Attorney, will you clarify what the question? Commissioner Clemens has a question for you.
County Attorney Patrick. The process that Commissioner Holmes was trying to follow, is that not a protocol process that we could follow?
So the appropriate procedure would be to amend the agenda and vote on the matter. So
Can you speak up, Patrick? We cannot hear you very clearly. I'm not sure what's happening with the volume.
Can you hear me better?
That's better, but still a little low. So I don't know if you need to project a little bit louder.
So the appropriate process would be to amend the agenda and vote on the item presented. Commissioner Holmes could amend his motion to include both the motion to amend the agenda and the motion to approve the matter, and it could be done in one motion. I think you've probably discussed it enough. I don't know that there's any further need to discuss the matter, but it is proper for every action you take to be included in the agenda.
All right, so I'm gonna restate my motion.
Commissioner Holmes, you've got the floor.
Okay, so my motion is to amend the agenda to approve funding for the 3 positions for the DA's office and giving the county manager the ability to decide where the funding should come from, either from fund balance or any other funding mechanism. That's my motion, all in one.
Thank you for the clarification of that motion. So we have a new motion on the table. So we've heard that motion, and I see Commissioner Thomas with a second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Okay, we see that. All opposed to that motion, please raise your hand. Okay. Given this being of a significant matter, I would like to make a motion. I would like to make the motion that the agenda is amended to vote on a special call meeting to review and to discuss the funding of all of our courts, but to definitely make sure that we've got the funding for the 3 positions that we've discussed, and that we also discuss the items that have been unbudgeted by this Board of Commissioners, and to identify a plan of how we're going to move forward, given the fact that we are clearly set our millage rate, and we've got funding that we've got to think through over the next couple of weeks. So that is the motion that I have on the table. So is there a second? Okay, I see a second from Commissioner Barnes. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, please signal by raising your hand. Those opposed? Okay, well, thank you. All right, well.
Chair Wood, I have another motion.
Okay, Commissioner Clemens.
I would like to make a motion. I think this will combine your motion and Commissioner Holmes' motion. This is the intent, that we would authorize the county manager to proceed with funding the 3 positions for the district attorney's office, as well as funding the other positions for the courts as necessary and needed for the public safety departments.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Holmes. Any further discussion? My point is, I'm going to respect the county manager. I want her to bring that information back, and so that we can do this looking at everything. So that's why my position will reflect that. So we've had a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, please raise by signaling your hand. 3. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, well, again, we thank you, Mr. DA. It has brought a very informed and lively discussion. Again, we appreciate several comments that you've made, highlighting the urgency by which we will review your request. And also, we made a note of the process improvements that need to be made regarding the budgeting process going forward. So we thank you again. Thank you for your update today, as it was noted on our agenda. So thank you again. We will now move to the consent agenda, and this has been published. And on the consent agenda, we have a Henry County Police Department public safety item, which is a resolution approving the grant award from the Tanger Outlet Center in the amount of $500. From the Elections and Registration Department, we have a resolution accepting the CARES Act reimbursement funds from the Georgia Secretary of State via Secure the Vote initiative and the amount of $3,637 to provide materials and equipment to make the voting process safer for voters, poll workers, and election officials. Again, the Parks and Recreation items have been moved from the consent agenda items, so we'll discuss that right after the consent. The SPLOST items that we are on the consent agenda is 1, a resolution approving a budget amendment and a supplemental agreement for the design of State Route 81 widening in District 1 and District 3. There's a resolution also approving the Henry County Water Authority utility relocation estimated cost for Peaksville Road in District 1. And then there's a resolution approving the Henry County Water Authority utility relocation estimated cost for West Village Parkway in District 5. And then the board did, through the agenda amendment process, did move the item of the fire department's public safety resolution accepting the assistance to firefighters grant in the amount of $797,800 from the Federal Emergency Management Agency to provide source capture exhaust systems to eliminate diesel engine emissions from the interior of our 16 firefighters. So again, those have been, that was added to the consent agenda. So given that, the floor is now open for a motion to accept the consent agenda. I see a motion from Commissioner Holmes. Is there a second? A second from Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise by signaling, raising your hand. Okay, I did not see anyone opposed. Please raise your hand so I can make sure that is recorded as well. So all in favor, thank you. We'll now move into the items that were removed from the consent agenda, and it fits under Park and Recreation, and then we'll move into item 8 after that. So at this time, we'll welcome up someone from Parks and Recreation, Mr. Penn, to discuss the resolution to authorize lease of golf carts necessary to operate the Cotton Fields Golf Course.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So before you have a resolution authorizing the lease of golf carts necessary to operate Cotton Fields Golf Course. This lease we currently have, this is a re-up on the lease. We did use the state contract for this. The lease is $216 more per month, but we're getting a better return on our investment because we're getting 6 additional carts, a cart picker, and 1 other vehicle as well that's included in that. So we're getting a greater return on our investment with this lease. Any questions?
Okay, we've heard the presentation. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, the floor is now open for a motion for approval. I see Commissioner Wilson, Commissioner Holmes as a second. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor, please signal by raising your hand. Just for the record, anyone opposed, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, it seems that was a unanimous approval. Okay, we'll now move into the next item, which is a resolution awarding bid 20-37 to Fire Systems, Inc. for the Nash Farm Cultural Arts Building and the amount of $309,542. And again, we welcome Mr. Penn or Mr. Johnson to make that presentation.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, and this morning I'll be presenting this resolution. As you know, we have the barn facility at Nash Farm that was at the end of last year approved to move and modify into our theater out there. One of the things that's been, I guess, overlooked for years is the safety component of the fire sprinkler system. With the upgrade and remodeling, it does trigger, actually, we should have already had it done years ago, is the sprinkler system for safety considerations. This is not just this is a rental facility that our public rents. So bid number 20-37 was let, and the lowest bidder was in for $309,542 to come outfit. This includes the sprinkler vault and the connections as a turnkey, so we can move forward with our remodel of the activity barn or the Cultural Arts Center. I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. So the floor is now open for any questions. Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, Brad, I'm looking at the resolution. It says that you have 5 companies that you solicited to and have only 1 to bid on it.
That's correct.
So how long was the bid at? I guess y'all, went through the same bidding process. And another question is what's the square footage of the building?
It's a 7,000 square foot building, Commissioner, and did go through the procurement, through our procurement process, following procurement policies.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Commissioner Barham?
Yes, Brad, I was just noticing on the resolution that it didn't have a financial implication consideration sheet with it. Can you tell me how, I know it clearly states it in the actually resolution, but in the reports, but how are we going to pay for this?
So I'm not sure about the financial implication form you're talking about, but typically it is in there. It will come out of splashed 5 out of District 2 for Commissioner Clemens.
Oh,
She's
okay.
approved for that. This is her.
Okay, it wasn't clearly stated that way in the resolution.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'm fine with that. Is the building worth $309,000?
Commissioners, I think it's been a big asset to the community. It's been rented a lot. I think moving forward, it'll be an asset once it's remodeled.
Okay.
There's also part of the master plan for Nash Farm out there to have a part of the master plan.
Okay,
To
good.
have the facility.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion for approval. Okay, I think I saw Commissioner Clemens' voice for a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Holmes, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, just to make sure, anyone opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
that looks like unanimous approval. All right, thank you. We're then moving to the item 8 on the agenda, which is a resolution to approve RFP 21-05 to Perez Planning for the Henry County Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Master Plan in the amount of $99,500. And we'll invite up Mr. Penn to make that presentation.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Good morning again.
Good morning.
Okay, so before you is the resolution awarding RFP number 21-05 to Perez Planning and Design LLC for the Henry County Parks and Rec Comprehensive Master Plan in the amount of $99,500. Going through this pandemic the last 5 months, it has been clear now more than ever that the important role of parks and recreation serve in our community. More people are turning to parks, green spaces, trails to relieve stress and enjoy the health benefits and the access of nature while keeping a safe social distance in this pandemic that we have. More people are recognizing that parks, trails, and robust recreational and fitness programming are not only nice to have community amenities, but they are also vital physical and social infrastructure. That is why it's the ideal time for Henry County to complete a comprehensive Parks and Rec plan that helps prepare the county for a more resilient, equitable, and inclusive county. Henry County has never had a comprehensive Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and preparing one can provide a foundation for economic development, building healthy communities, and to provide a unique sense of place. The master plan will allow us to assess current and future recreational needs, evaluate feasible options, develop a strategic action plan, and budget for long-term or phased-in development and improvements. Completing and implementing the comprehensive Parks and Rec Master Plan is a requirement to obtain the CAPRA certification, which is a national certification that most all top parks and recreation organizations across the country have. And that's what we want to strive to be, is one of the top parks and recreational divisions, departments within the country. So what is the master plan? The master plan lays out organizational framework for improving parks and recreation facilities, programs, and services to better serve the public. The planning process, which engages stakeholders such as yourself, the Parks Advisory Commission, and any other groups or committees that you all deem fit, and garners public input. We definitely want the community input. Provides a foundation for understanding and responding to the parks and recreation needs of our community. It will identify economic and other factors such as utility, infrastructure development, planning, acquisition, and sustainability. So what we're going to do is identify unmet current and future needs in the parks and rec system through public and stakeholder engagement, prioritize park improvements, development, and potential future park acquisitions, evaluate staffing and funding needs along with strategies, prepare a final document, and present it to the board for adoption and implementation. So we definitely want to adopt a plan, but not only adopt a plan, we want to implement a plan. Next slide. So how? Through community research and analysis. Develop demographic characteristics and projections in population growth. Use linear regression for forecasting the county population 1, 5, and 10 years into the futures. Complete local and national trends. Inventory and conditions. We want to inventory existing parks and recreation facilities assigned to the classification, mapplication, acreage, general assessment of physical condition and functionality, and improvement recommendations. Community involvement, needs assessment, gap analysis, examine the needs in existing parks as well as additional park amenities. Recommendations, including acquiring, developing new park sites, improving existing sites, and potential partnerships. Priority recommendations, level of service standard recommendations, park classification system recommendations, existing park and facilities recommendations, land acquisition recommendations, new trails, open space and facility recommendations, budgeting and funding recommendations. And also with all of this, as we continue to improve our park system, we want to look at staffing and funding needs. How are we going to fund these improvements? What's the staffing levels that are needed? So we're going to provide a budget and staffing analysis needed for a current level of service, an adequate level of service, and desirable level of service. So that is what we're doing with the comprehensive master plan. That's what the company will be doing. And at this time, I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you. If someone can remove the screen share so that we can acknowledge the board. Okay, so are there any questions at this time? And I know I've got one in a statement. Okay, well, Mr. Penn, I'm really glad to see that we are moving towards a master plan for all of our parks. My question is in this process, where the current agreements that we have with those who are, partnering with our parks and recreation, for whatever services and activities are being provided, will that be included as part of this review? And if so, will any recommendations be made, I guess, to kind of discontinue or maybe even add some others? So of course, I heard you say that the public would be involved in it to give some input to.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We'll be reviewing all of those processes and partnerships that we currently have. Any agreements that we have, we'll be reviewing that as well.
Okay. And I guess my only other comment it relates to the fact that in light of our conversation earlier regarding the needs for our district attorney and other judicial systems, and of course, because we've actually have committed to some unbudgeted needs, my thoughts are to table this until we at least allow a conversation back or presentation back from the county manager on our financial statuses and to really talk about the priorities. I am in favor of this plan. No doubt, I think it is necessary. Our community deserves it, needs it. And I'm glad to hear that it's going to include public input, but my thoughts are to actually table it until we get through these discussions about how we're going to fund the district attorney needs that are critical right now. So those are my thoughts.
And I will say, if you don't mind, that this was budgeted already in the budget.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Thomas.
Yes, I do have some questions about this whole process. And again, this is another one of those items that should be brought before us at a different time so we can vet it, talk about it, and discuss it. I don't see this as important right now as the district attorney's office. So I don't see us funding it at this point in time until, again, we can talk about where this funding coming from, how important it is to take place, how will this affect the management of the parks now? I have a lot of questions about it, and it has not been presented to the Board of Commissioners, nor have we given time to discuss this as well. And as you stated before, if we can table something as important as the district attorney office, and we can turn him away with knowing that he needs those positions for the safety of this community, we can definitely wait on this and talk about and have it presented to us at a different time so we can discuss the necessity of it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, Commissioner Clements.
I would like to make a motion that we table this item. I'd rather, JP, you not have this item be voted down and just table it until you can get with the commissioners and talk about it and how it's going to operate and work. I have some questions as well about when they're conducting stakeholder meetings. that we don't have people from the Far East conducting information and deciding on what happens on the Far West, as well as people that are not a part of our community weighing in, stakeholders, and how will you determine who's a stakeholder and who's not? So I don't know if that's something that can be done internally with the whoever you're awarding this project to. But those are some of the things that we need to talk about. I think it is good that we do a master plan. You're coming from communities that have master plans. We don't have one. But in light of commissioners not being aware of how to move forward to the 2020 century, you might want to table it.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, we just heard a motion to table it, and I'll second it because I'm the one that recommended that we table it until we get through the DA's discussion. So I'll second it. Are there any questions or comments further? Okay, those in favor of tabling this master plan for Parks and Recreation, please do so by signaling by raising your hand. Okay, I think that was unanimous. Anyone opposed, please do so by raising your hand. Okay, this item is tabled. All right, thank you. Okay, we'll now move into the next conversation, and this is the Board of Commissioners items, and I'm the presenter of both. In light of all that is going on in our nation regarding the racial tensions, the social unrest that is happening, and again, things that we're having conversations about here in Henry County, I am proposing to this board a discussion and hopefully a resolution to be voted upon at a future meeting, the next meeting actually, to talk about a harmony strategy. I originally called it racial harmony strategy, but I will tell you it is about harmony because the issues that we're dealing with, in my strong opinion, is not just about race or not just about injustice or unrighteousness. It's about the state of the heart of individuals. And so how can Henry County be different than the rest of the world? I'm again recommending that we come together as elected officials. We say that we are leaders here in this community. How can we work together along with the cities to help develop a strategy of harmony around items that are of interest to all of our citizens, regardless of their race, their ethnicity, or even their political persuasion? So I'm asking that we come together, not fight against each other, but to work together on some common goals. I again just ask that we work together and continue what I've already seen here in the community. I've already heard from some of our citizens through some of our public comments that we've had here at the board meeting. We definitely have heard individuals through phone and email. I did send out I call it a racial harmony survey to actually, I'm sorry, my battery is showing low. So let me plug it up. And I want to thank those who gave their feedback. It was not a complete representation of all of our citizens here in Henry County, but it did give some input. So again, just wanted to at least propose a discussion today about what I have submitted to you all in advance to address any questions that you have. Many may be saying, why am I doing this? Well, according to our charter, the county chair can coordinate intergovernmental activity between the county, the municipalities, and even other divisions here in our community. I definitely think that our citizens need to be involved no matter who they are. And if you look at the document that I submitted to you, I'm recommending individuals from every stakeholder group that I could identify at this time. And that does include those who are made of the demographics, because as we know right now, Henry County in 2019 had a documented population of 234,561 people, and that number obviously has grown, and we're projected to be at about 370,000 plus by 2050. And then according to the recent data, well, at least 2018 data, Henry County was comprised about 45.3% Black, 41.8% white, 7.2% Hispanic, 3.3% Asian, 2.2% with two or more races, Native Alaskan of about 0.2%, and then and the Native Hawaiian, and then we've got 0.1% of other Pacific Islanders. And as we know, those numbers again was in 2018. That number obviously has changed, and we'll be looking for the recent data on that. But the question is how do we blend together and live in harmony as we continue to all want a quality of life? So again, if we as a leadership team, I say that we're leaders, I'm asking again that the Board of Commissioners will join me in this effort for a harmony strategy for Henry County. As you can see, I'm recommending areas that we focus on that will at least address the needs that we have as it relates to healthcare and children's safety. We've heard from our DA clearly about the issues that we've had. We're still in the midst of COVID-19. We've got to make sure that everyone has an opportunity for education and workforce development, especially small businesses. How do we continue to work with them? But more importantly, how do we continue to partner locally to make sure that every opportunity is given for jobs here in Henry County, not just those that are going to pay partial of the bills, but things that allow our citizens to be self-sustaining. How do we continue? Commissioner Thomas is taking a great lead and already working on helping us to formulate to a transportation advisory committee. But again, let's continue to build upon that to talk about infrastructure improvements for mobility and walkability, but to also begin talking about how we're going to address broadband. How do we continue to again focus on those small businesses? How do we begin to focus on a clean, green, and beautiful community? We've had some of our constituents that have come spoken to us about the litter that's around here, but how do we work together as a community to help bring that together? We still have got to address our quality housing here for our middle income, for those individuals who are working individuals that need housing that would allow them to, again, take care of their families. And then, of course, how do we move together in establishing cultural arts and family entertainment so that, again, we can respect tradition at the same time, think about all of the diversity that is here and to celebrate that, look for the good in all of this. So my request to this board is for you to give me your feedback. What I've been asking of and what you see proposed to me is asking 2 other commissioners and maybe 2 mayors or city council members to help us begin organizing ourselves around some coordinating groups. There's been a lot of great conversation with town halls. There have been some, conversations about racism and so forth. But again, we've got to talk about those things, and those need to continue. But how do we begin to focus on those things also that would help us to be proactive and be different than the rest of this world as it comes to bringing our community together? I am also asking those conversations to continue. I'm asking that this group that we began thinking about who can help us plan the 2021 celebration here in Henry County, which is next year. We'll be 200 years old next year. And how do we bridge the past, the current, and the future? And then again, how do we establish opportunities so that, again, that we are able to improve our focus of bringing people together regardless of background, how they are included, and how do they feel valued in this beautiful community that we live in. So I'm going to pause there. I do ask that you all give me some feedback. I do request the support, which is only what the resolution would say, is that you would participate, or some of you would participate, that you would also help us to help organize. This is noted as a draft. I do believe that I didn't want to blindside anybody with any new resolution without at least giving you an opportunity to give some input and to help us to move forward as a community. So I'll pause there, but that is my presentation regarding a request to focus on a harmony strategy for Henry County, including both county and cities and all of the stakeholders that I am referencing. And please do note that I am including stakeholders from the education system, from the Department of Health, from the Republican Party, from the Democratic Party, from the chambers. We've got multiple chambers that are here, and then they could help us extend this to other groups that are important to our community, such as our veterans and the neighborhood associations and the nonprofits and Connecting Henry and the civic organizations, and even the other intergovernmental agencies that we have here in Henry County. So that concludes my presentation on my request to get your feedback regarding this proposal. So the floor is now open. Commissioner Holmes.
Yeah, I don't want to, dampen anything, but I really don't understand what this is, and I don't see how it relates to county business. So those are my only comments. I just don't understand what you're doing here.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you not think it is county business to fully build upon what we already have? We've got a transportation advisory committee. We have a safety police advisory committee. We've got, of course, our parks and recreations and others that we have. And one of the things that is not happening is that all of this is not coming together, especially as we think about involving and engaging every stakeholder of our group, and that we're working together so that we've got some actionable and measurable things that we can definitely consider and move forward in. So when we talk about infrastructure and where we are as a county, and I've heard several times that this board is the leaders. So that is why I'm saying, let's build upon what we have, but let's definitely be more strategic with some measurable goals. But at the same time, let's make sure that we're involving all of our stakeholders that are part of this community. And we are a government. We're supposed to engage in individuals. That's why I'm glad to hear that even with our parks and recreation, we're looking for getting our citizens' input. And again, this would, in my opinion, help us to come together on common goals versus being so divisive as what we're seeing in some other communities.
Yeah, I still don't understand. I mean, those are things that are currently in place, things that we voted on. I don't see any issue with people visiting our parks or participating in any other organization in the county. Things look to be pretty well coordinated, and what I see in our community is people that love each other and respect each other, and I don't see a lot of actions where people are against each other in Henry County. I just don't see it. So I'm not exactly sure what this is and how it relates to how we do our jobs as commissioners.
All right, well, thank you for your comments. Other comments? Commissioner Thomas.
I understand the intent of what you're trying to do. You said harmony in, I can't remember, harmony in something. I understand the intent of what you're trying to do. And I do know that these questions and these concerns are things that have to be addressed. But they should be addressed in another vehicle. We have a chamber, and I know they're doing some things. I think we should support that effort and say, okay, let's see what they are doing to work with the whole community. I know they have something called Together for Henry that they're working with as well. I also know that these are issues that should be addressed through other agencies, nonprofits that are working on different things. I know I'm working on some things. I have some things coming forth again to work with the community outside of the Board of Commissioners and not through the board itself. So I'm wondering if the goal of what you're trying to accomplish really need to be accomplished through other nonprofits, through our churches, through the chamber, through Connecting Henry. If that vehicle is already in place and we just need to support some of the vehicles that are in place already. That's what I'm thinking about. But again, I understand, I think that you want to build some type of community and harmony in Henry County, and definitely Henry County has to talk about where it is. But I really do think that maybe we need to look at another vehicle to make it happen. And like I said, I know that I have some upcoming things myself outside the board that I will be working on. I've done quite a few webinars and Facebook informational sessions as well. And I just wonder if we need to look at supporting the vehicles that are out there now instead of creating another vehicle to try to accomplish that, because there are a lot of them out there. And we need to talk about how we can support them and communicating the message that you're trying to communicate in Henry County.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Thomas, and I appreciate that. And in response to a couple of comments that you made, I'm glad to hear you speak about some of the initiatives of the chamber and the fact that they've been working for years to at least bring the elected officials together. And so that is a thought. Regarding the fact that there's so many different things going on right now in Henry County, I think that's why I'm recommending, whether it be with this board or through another channel, that we definitely continue to work together to support those efforts. So that is something that I've made a note of as well. So thank you for your comments. Okay, any other comments? All right, Commissioner Clemens.
Chair Wood, at the beginning of your statement, you stated your responsibility as the chair to work with the other cities and municipalities. It's been your job for 3 years and 8 months to do this. I would say that we support you continuing to do your job, and you don't need us to support a project for what you're already working on and doing. So I think your intent is to do what your job says you're supposed to be doing. So I think that we should just continue to support you in doing it, and you don't have to bring it to the board or to look for us to buy into what's already in the resolution that you're supposed to be doing.
Well, and any other comments, Commissioner Clemens?
I just want to support your
Thank
role.
you. Well, and that means a lot. What I will tell you, what I am discovering is that, yes, my goal is to definitely work with the cities, to work with other agencies, the ARC. The board, I know, is encouraging me to definitely focus on things that represent this board. But what I have discovered is that it's going to take more than me to work with these cities. We need to have, I will tell you that there are some things that can be done where we need to have more joint meetings with each of the cities, and it's not just the chair's role, whether it's me or anyone else. It's going to need this board support. Because some of the issues that we've seen is that we've not been working as well with the cities and even with some of the chamber organizations, in my opinion. And so that was the clue to me that says, okay, I need this board support. And we need to work together more with each other, I would say, and also with those that are associated with this county. Because the thing that is going to be most important is that, yes, I do agree that there's a lot of great people in this community. And I agree that there are people that want the same thing, but how do we continue to be better? So that, again, Henry County is a great example. We're that county of excellence. That is what has caused me to at least have this discussion. So I see Commissioner Holmes's comment above. And then, of course, because these are items that I will definitely take to heart. So thank you, Commissioner Holmes.
So Madam Chair, you just mentioned that, we need to work with the chamber, we need to work with the cities, but neither of those things have anything to do with race. And I believe that if a commissioner wants to work with the cities, they're more than welcome. We're all in conversations with city council members and mayors throughout the county. We have a number of commissioners that are working with various organizations of their choosing throughout the county. So I don't really understand what you're trying to do here. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, and thank you, Commissioner Holmes. It may not make sense to some, but what I will say to you, you're exactly right. This is much bigger than race. This is about coming together, working together, and building upon what we already have. So it may not make sense to individuals, but I do know that a community that comes together, works together, collaborates together, are able to do even greater things. And so that is why I bring this proposal to have your conversation, and is really to ask for your support. Now, again, it was a thought, is a vision. You've given me some feedback, and I definitely will take that to heart. That's why I made this a discussion only. Please do note that it started out as a racial harmony type of discussion, but it is now more about harmony, period, which is going to focus more on inclusivity and to bring us together so that we are working towards some of the same common goals, so that we've got some of the same messages, no matter who we are or what organization that we're in, and it's to surround ourselves around those common goals that I just mentioned to you. So Commissioner Holmes, you still have the floor, and then we'll go to Commissioner Thomas.
I was just going to say, if it's an initiative of yours, you have my full support as well. And I believe that you should move forward and you know, in your space and make things happen to pull those organizations that you choose together. So yeah, you have my support 100%.
Thank you, Commissioner Holmes. Commissioner Thomas.
Madam Chair, again, I do understand what it is you're trying to achieve. And I just want to remind you that prior to COVID, you know, we had the municipal quarterly dinners that were very informative where the city and county comes together. And I remember you stating that you wanted to add another function to that where the county invites the cities. Most time now it's the cities, the 4 cities, and then we go to their function, we share information, we give out reports, and we have a dinner and we talk to each other. We collaborate together, which is a great function I've been to. And we love to do that once again when COVID doesn't restrain us from doing that. That's a wonderful vehicle. Another vehicle, of course, is Connecting Henry, which we support financially. And a part of when they come together with the nonprofits, they have about 90 different organizations sometime at one time in one place, in one room, which is another opportunity for us to do what you're talking about as well. I support what you're talking about, trying to bring this sense of unity and this sense of harmony into Henry County. I just want to see if we can find a way to support those who are already in place, who are already functioning, to make it stronger. Because we are communicating with the cities and we do meet with them. COVID has stopped that regular quarterly meeting, but that was a quarterly meeting. And it was very, very functional from my perspective to sit down across the table and talk with them and get those reports and to try and collaborate with them as to what they were doing in their cities. And we talked about what we were doing in the county to try to complement one another. So again, we have some vehicles out there. I would love to see us take what you have formulated here to find a way to support what's there, because you do have a good insight on what we need to do to move forward and working together. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner Wilson.
Yes, Chair Wood, I support you in this as well, and I'd be glad to sit down with you and have a further conversation and see how I can be of help about this initiative and move forward. So we can have that conversation.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments? Well, board, thank you. I think I heard overall, definitely the support of the concept to build upon what is already existing. That's why you saw that the proposal was to include as much of those that we are aware of and to welcome others. And I will again just move forward with an effort to continue to do what we can. And I will continue to invite each of you to join in on that effort. So thank you much for the feedback. Thank you for the discussions on that. Okay, we're now moving to the next item, which is regarding our agenda guidelines. I think as we continue to improve our productivity here with the Board of Commissioners, and I do know again that we've got our House Bill 554 that defines the authority and the rules and responsibilities of the chair, the Board of Commissioners, the county manager, the county clerk, and a little bit of the county county executive assistant, and also the county attorney. And so as we've continued to discuss our agenda items, I think today was a good example of, I would love to have some conversations about how do we improve upon what we do so that we are making a good conversation, that we're being transparent for our citizens. And more importantly, as staff, it goes back to review the impact of what this board does, is why I am bringing before you a conversation about the agenda. Now, we had a conversation about this back in June, some time ago. Our county clerk came and explained the process. The county attorney presented even a proposed ordinance that would allow us to literally add an official order to our Board of Commissioners meeting. Yes, the House bill does state that the Board of Commissioners, in consultation, if you look at items, you do in your exhibit should look at the House Bill 554. If you look under page 1, It clarifies again how we are structured. A lot of our citizens don't understand that we have a commission manager form of government. And it basically, again, explains that we are a commission management, which means that we are a board that sets, the governance of policy and to oversee those functions of the county manager, the county attorney, the county clerk, the executive assistant, and others. If you turn over to page 2, it speaks specifically about the Board of Commissioners, and it speaks about our exclusive rights. I'm not going to go through all of that, but if you come down to line 42, it speaks specifically about the agenda. And the county clerk, in consultation with the Board of Commissioners, the chair, the county attorney, and the county manager, establishes the agenda for the meeting of the board. And then if you look further down on line 57 and 58, again, it is this Board of Commissioners that establishes the rules of order and procedure to govern our meetings for the board. So we start there, but I also want you to go to the second. If you look behind tab 10, you'll see what the agenda process is. And the agenda process basically, again, refers back to the process that House Bill 554 helps us formulate the agenda with consultations of those I just mentioned. We've got a county code that also speaks about the agenda that we have, and that the agenda should be posted as far in advance as reasonable possibly. And currently, we do have what they called a red folder process, so that, again, at beginning of every year, this board does vote on an agenda calendar. And the agenda calendar pretty much lays out all of our meetings for the year. And I know in previous times, we've actually added some workshop meetings to this calendar, and it was voted upon, again, by this board. But the key that I really wanted to at least discuss regarding our board is that all of the agenda items that are presented are reviewed almost like the next meeting. There's going to be a review process of what agenda items should come. And it explains who has the opportunity to submit items to the agenda, so that, again, the county management team and the Board of Commissioners are welcome to come into these discussions. Every one of these discussions, when the agenda items are being discussed and they're being reviewed by the county attorney to consider any legal implications. The budget team is included in there to talk about any budget impacts, and then any risk management. All of these items are being reviewed and discussed, so that when the staff brings the agenda items, or the agenda is actually sent to the Board of Commissioners, we get a draft agenda before it is even publicized. We are given an opportunity to add to the agenda, to change the agenda before it is actually published the Wednesday before the meeting is actually held. So that Wednesday, when the county clerk publishes the agenda, the board, along with staff, has an opportunity to identify any matters critical or not to modify the agenda, because then it is publicized to the citizens and anybody else who wants to know what this board is discussing. So I wanted to open it up because it seems that even today was a good example. And I do understand that the board, as we all know, and some people don't understand this, the agenda is not finalized until the board approves the agenda. And so that's why when items are coming, sometimes they come at the last minute, sometimes they come as a topic without a resolution. Even today, good conversation. But again, how can we do better regarding making sure that we are being transparent with each other? Also giving staff the opportunity to do what they need to do so that they are informed. It breaks my heart to see when we put this county manager in position when she's not able to have her information or at least discuss be prepared to discuss the information because she works hard. That whole team works very hard to prepare for these board meetings and to make sure that we as a board have the information that we need so that we can make decisions as well. Just because of something is voted not in favor of doesn't mean at the point when you don't have all the information that you're not in support of it. So I'm just asking this board again to make some recommendations on what we need to do out of transparency to each other, transparency to the staff, transparency to the citizens, so that we're able to have board meetings that help us to address the things. Now, I do know that there's going to always be some items potentially that are going to require critical attention. But I will say some of the items that we come, if we've been given an opportunity to discuss them and to share it with each other, that's why I wanted to share at least what I was going to discuss with y'all so that y'all are not blindsided. It's not fair to you all if I'm to bring something without at least you getting the information. So I'm going to pause here. I would love to hear some discussions from this board about what we can do to improve this process. I will say that I do, after your discussions, would love for the county attorney to draft a resolution so that we're able to talk more about the process, which has not been approved through an ordinance. We've got House Bill 554, we've got our code, but it doesn't speak specifically about a process that will allow us in our meeting discussions for the agenda. So I'll pause here and would love to hear comments, questions, and more importantly, recommendations. Okay, Commissioner Clemens.
Patrick, this is for you. The chair has stated that there's no process, but I've read in House Bill 554 that the commissioner decides the agenda and that whatever the commissioners decide is the process. And secondly, I read that there is no agenda until we approve an agenda. So therefore, at any time that we bring it, and it says, excuse me, that as early as possible, as early as we can determine to add something to the agenda item, that it has to be, but there's no deadline. So just verify that what I've read is correct, and that is the process, because the chair has stated that there is no process, but I would assume that those are the processes since they're written, they're policies, and they've been voted on by boards prior to me being on the board.
All right, Commissioner, County Attorney, and keep in mind, I said that we've got House Bill 554 and we got a code. So I just said we don't have an ordinance that's related to the agenda process. So I just wanted to make that clear before you respond, Mr. Jockstatter. So you may have the floor now.
Right. So the law is, as Commissioner Clemens, as you noted, the agenda belongs to the board, and when the board approves the agenda, that is the agenda, whatever it is. Now, Georgia law requires that we publish or that we make available an agenda available to the public before the meeting. And it's the preparation of that agenda, maybe we call it a pre-agenda or a proposed agenda. I think that there really isn't any formally adopted procedure to prepare. The county has for years engaged in the process that Chair Wood described, which is that we have deadlines for submission of agenda items well in advance of a meeting. There is a review process, there is a meeting that staff undertakes. And if an agenda item is properly submitted and goes through that process, it is then put on the agenda, the proposed agenda that's distributed to the board. But that proposed agenda is subject to modification or revision by this board at the board meeting, just like you did this morning. You retain the right to amend the agenda, to add things to, take things off of, or mix the agenda, the order things are presented in. And I think the discussion that we've had, the discussion that's come to staff from board members on occasion has been, how does staff prepare? Who says what goes on that agenda that's distributed to the board? And I think that's really what this discussion is about. The agenda that's presented to the board in advance of the meeting is the result of the efforts of your management staff. They're tracking what's happening. They're tracking contracts as they work their way through the procurement process. They're tracking ordinance revisions that staff identifies. They're tracking just basic actions, deadlines, and such that come up throughout the course of the year. and things are put on the agenda based solely on internal staff, staff requirements. There are also items that go on the agenda at the initiation of request of board members. And there are also items that come up on the agenda because, for lack of a better word, they're, I don't want to say emergency, but they're sort of urgent items that have to get up on the board, in front of the board for the board to make decisions on. So if anything, if there's a place in that process that could use clarification, it would be how we decide what goes on that printed agenda that's distributed to the board. The system has worked, and maybe Sherry or Stephanie may know, the county clerk may know how long that system's been in place. But I can tell you it's been in place as long as I can remember, that there's been some form of a staff level approval, whether it's been a formal meeting that we do now, the red folder meeting, or whether it was just a distribution among appropriate personnel at the county for approval of agenda items. But that's what the agenda process looks like now. And Commissioner Clemens, you're correct. The Board of Commissioners retains the right to vote and approve the agenda at the commencement of each meeting. And nothing in the proposal that was brought to the board, it was about a year ago now, the first time we presented this, nothing would have limited that regardless of what process we engage in, it would not make any sense. In fact, I think it would be unworkable if the Board of Commissioners was denied the opportunity to approve its agenda prior to voting.
Okay, anything else, Commissioner Clemens?
I just wanted to make sure that the process that we've been following was the correct process, and that we had not done anything wrong by following that process. So thank you, Patrick, for clarifying that.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Holmes?
Yeah, we've had the same process for the last 10 years, and it has not been a problem before. So I'm not sure why it's a problem now. So I wouldn't support any change to this current process.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner Wilson?
So what I'm not in support of, or as the agenda, is having things added to the agenda without a resolution. That's where the problems come in. It puts pressure on the county management team. Then we have the county attorneys making notes and has to go back on the meeting to try to make sure that he has the wording right on the resolution that is written after the approval of a resolution that don't exist. So I think that's the biggest issue I have with adding things to an agenda that don't have a resolution. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Barn.
Thanks, Chair. Just like what happened this morning, it really puts the county manager in an awkward position when we try to add something. And I think anything that should be added should be open for discussion only. But when we're actually voting on the issue itself, I think it has to go through a process. And I would like to see us move forward with some type of policy or whatever to have it where no commissioner could add anything to the agenda. The only person that could add anything to the agenda would be the county manager during some type of an emergency. But for far as discussion, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I just think it really puts our county manager in an awkward position. And I think out of respect to her, we need to do better. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, I think Commissioner Thomas, you've got your hand. Okay, Commissioner Thomas.
You asked a question, what can be done to make it smoother or better for us to go through our process of the agenda, and I'm assuming the meeting itself. And one of the things I would like to say, I do believe that we need workshops. If we have these workshops, we're not have to have these long discussions for 1 hour or more on one particular topic. And that's one of the things that's slowing down the process, trying to keep up with the process and coming forth with on different resolutions that we're maybe not prepared, or the administration is not prepared to give us information on. So I do support workshops. But in the workshops, I would like to see it where they are for discussion and information only. We should not have workshops where someone can come in and say, well, 4 of us is here, so let's call for a vote. They should be for discussion and information only. So to make our meetings go better, to make us understand more about what's on the agenda, to have the information ahead of time, I would love to see workshops that are only for discussion only, no voting at all during the workshop sessions.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Commissioner Barnes.
Yes, Chair, and I totally support workshops. Everybody knows how I feel about workshops. They're very important, and that way we can hash things out and then let them move to the agenda. But there's probably some things that come up in the workshop that could probably move to the consent agenda. And then when we have our regular meeting, we could take them off or whatever we needed to do. It may just speed the process up a little bit. But I think workshops is very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I agree. I think workshops are very valuable. The challenge I've had with the workshops that we've had before, staff goes in all of that time and preparing for the meeting, the items that are being discussed. And we spend hours, I know on some of the workshops that we've had, but when it comes to the agenda, is as though we've not even had the workshop. So I just want to make sure that we are making use, because we have some of our commissioners that are extremely busy. So we've got to be respectful, of their time as well. But I am in favor of trying to get more details that should not be taking time through a Board of Commissioners meeting. So those are my thoughts regarding the workshops. So my question is now to our county attorney. I've heard several comments that the agenda process that we've been using is working well overall. We did make a note again about some comments from some of the commissioners about resolutions that are not prepared before the board makes a vote. Heard only that would love to have more workshops to be discussion only and information only added to our calendar. And if there is anything, we understand that this board has a right to change any agenda. But again, that will continue because that is law. They're not trying to address that. But my question to the county attorney is, what do we need to formalize the process that we spoke about? So that is what we have now. I know it's a guideline from what I understand, but this board has, in my opinion, not formalized it from an ordinance or any other standpoint. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, so that again, when we come back, if necessary, we can have an ordinance that this board can give more input to after this discussion and so forth. So if you could clarify that, I would appreciate it.
So 2 things. First of all, with respect to workshop meetings, Commissioner Thomas had requested that I prepare a resolution calling for workshop meetings. I have done so, and I've just emailed it to all of you. It is in draft form. It requires a few blanks to be filled out. So I will talk to county manager, the county clerk, and we'll look at putting that on the agenda at an upcoming.
Uh-oh, you're frozen. I'm sorry.
Chair, to your specific.
Uh-oh.
If it is the desire.
Well, you're fading in and out, and you kind of.
Am I okay now?
You sound okay right now. Can all the other commissioners hear him? Okay, speak again. There's a test.
Okay. So
Okay,
with respect to your specific question, I could certainly prepare a resolution or an ordinance. It might make sense to make it an ordinance so it would appear in our codified code of ordinances. That would take our current procedure and formalize it. I'm happy to do that. It would
I'm sorry, Patrick, you're frozen again.
Take a procedure that's sort of developed over practice.
Okay, yeah, well, you're kind of in and out. So I think I heard you say that you had received a request of a resolution regarding workshops from Commissioner Thomas, and that you just sent it to us, and obviously we can talk about that at a future meeting. Here, you were talking about how we could potentially formalize the process that we have to make it part either as a resolution or an ordinance, just to identify the current process that we have to complement what we already have in law and also in our code. But again, this would be a consideration of a resolution or ordinance. So did I capture that accurately, or was there something additional?
No, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, okay, Commissioner Clemens.
Patrick, I don't understand why you have to formalize something that's already the law, but I mean, we'll discuss that later. Secondly, if you're going to formalize anything, then you're going to have to make changes to House Bill 554, because there's some things that came up that if we're going to change that, then we need to deal with that as well. So if we're going to change anything, we need to probably look at House Bill 554 as well. And so I would suggest that we need to look at everything together if we're going to look at everything. And I also would suggest that we deal with this in January.
And I would support all of that, Commissioner Clemens, even though I think December may be a good time to have that conversation with everything, so that at least by January, you kind of know what needs to be addressed. And I too would be in favor of this board having a workshop around all of this, especially 554, that maybe if there are any changes that it could be part of a legislative agenda. So those are my thoughts. Okay, Commissioner Holmes.
Hey, another thing I would like to look at is the chair's ability to vote. I think in this current situation where we have 5 districts and 5 districts, the chair would live in one of the 5 districts. So if you have 2 commissioners in one district, it makes it unfair for the other 4 commissioners. So I definitely want to take a look at that. Chair shouldn't have the ability to vote on every single item.
All right, thank you for your comments. Okay, any other thoughts, Commissioner Barnes?
My thought, I don't think we have to change 554 to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. So that some way that would make us work better together. I think the chair should vote on every issue, but that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, well, those are good comments. I do agree. What has been proposed is that we definitely have further discussions to review the agenda process, include the workshop meetings, to talk about House Bill 554, and to do so in December. So that again, by January, there is a process and some discussions that could go forward, in addition to the fact that that would give time to at least make a legislative presentation to the local delegation. So thank you for your feedback. Again, this was a discussion only. I think there was some good feedback. And we'll look to scheduling, look to the clerk and the county manager to help coordinate a discussion of this in December. I don't know when we're going to have, or when the Board of Commissioners will have its strategic planning session, but this could potentially be part of that. And again, I do recommend in December, that way it is confirmed of who the 2021 going forward Board of Commissioners will be. All right, so thank you very much for this discussion. Very good input. I thank you for that. So at this time, we'll move into the public comment section. And again, individuals who are requesting to make comment in this virtual setting were requested to submit their request to speak during public comments by 5 o'clock on yesterday. And I'll turn to the county clerk to see, do we have anyone who signed up for public comments?
No, ma'am, we did not.
Okay. All right, given that, that does conclude our public comment section of the agenda. We'll now move to the approval of the minutes. There were the minutes of June 16th at the regular Board of Commissioners meeting, the June 30th special call meeting regarding T-SPLOS and the service delivery strategy, and also July 7th regular Board of Commissioners meetings. Were there any changes to those minutes? All right, seeing none, the floor is now open for a motion to approve the minutes of those meetings. I see Commissioner Wilson. and Commissioner Barr. Any discussion about the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving those minutes, please do so by raising your hand. Okay, just to confirm, anyone opposed? So that looks to be unanimous. So at this time now, we'll move into the county manager comments. So Ms. Matthews, if you will come forward now, please.
Yes, good morning, Chair and board members. The only update I have this morning is an update from Holly LaFontaine, who is our risk management director. As you all will remember, I guess about a month ago, the board did execute a resolution asking for an update on our COVID-19 procedures and policies, and we've tabled it a couple of meetings and just wanted to bring the board up to speed on where we are and allow you all an opportunity to ask any questions that you all may have of myself, our risk management director, and or our deputy county manager regarding our processes. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. LaFontaine, who will update the board. And then after her presentation, Chair Wood, I will yield the floor back to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. LaFontaine.
Jamie, I hope you're there for next. Thank you. On July 7th, Chair Wood signed a resolution for the county manager to establish a pandemic corrective assessment and action plan. And on behalf of the county manager's office, I'd like to address some of the items that were listed in that resolution and then speak on the status of the plan. Next. The first bullet of the resolution was to identify failures in existing policies which led to the current surge of cases among county employees. In June, 11 employees tested positive for COVID. In July, 17 employees tested positive. Our slideshow used the word approximate because the fire department did track their own numbers, so those aren't included. And also, as a side note, the fire department had 13 confirmed positive cases between May 4th and August the 17th. If a failure has to be identified, we would contribute the slight rise in positive cases among employees during that time to more employees were traveling and socializing over the 4th of July holiday, more so than in previous months. And somewhat of complacency among some of the staff, not wanting to wear face coverings all the time, maybe coming to work sick and that kind of thing. Next slide, please. Bullet B states to create a tangible action plan to correct failures that were identified in Bullet A. On July 1, the courthouse, the judicial center, and most of the court-related officers were closed to the public and many employees because of a few positive COVID-19 cases among court personnel. However, most of the court-related offices were able to continue services through teleworking, video conference, and some video court procedures. The courts reopened July 13th. In early July, COVID-19 protocol was updated, sent to all county employees. Employees were reminded that regardless of their role or position, that it was not okay to come to work if they were sick or had tested positive for COVID. And supervisors were coached on reminding the staff about face covering, social distancing, and a lot of the other guidelines. Supervisors were also allowed to impose disciplinary action for employees who failed to comply with the protocol if it reached that point. Bullet C of the resolution states to create a tangible action plan to address any future pandemic. The county manager and key members of senior leadership, Henry County's EMA director and his staff, public safety representatives from our cities, and a lot of other agencies, they started meeting early in 2020 to start addressing this and future issues. As you know, it's very complicated, multi-layered task that needs to be addressed, and the situation is fluid and does change rapidly. The county manager, senior leadership, and department heads are currently still working on updating policies, protocols, and plans. As with any other event that we've experienced in recent past, dealing with how to address daily operation needs of the county due to COVID-19 is something new. Obviously, not only to Henry County leadership, but everybody worldwide. County manager and her team are doing the best to stay informed from the leading experts, Department of Public Health, the CDC, and others. But to be able to put together a plan that can address future emergencies, what we're trying to do is put together a plan that will address future emergencies, but allow for flexibility for the unknown. Item 2 of the resolution reads, revisit current staffing plans and establish a long-term teleworking policy. Bullet A authorizes and encourages teleworking and remote working. Go back. Henry County teleworking, we sent out, the county manager sent out a Henry County teleworking during emergency closures policy in March of 2020. And we have a Henry County emergency closures policy that was also sent out, updated in March 2020, as well as an infectious condition policy that was sent out in April of 2020. Human Resources, Risk, and some others are currently working on an updated teleworking policy to present to the county manager for her final review. Next. Trying to catch up with myself, sorry. Item 3 of the resolution is a directive to assess and evaluate the county's current COVID-19 response plan. Specifically, Bullet A, include an identification of current plans, success and failures, and Bullet B, identify specific failures in the implementation and enforcement of such. Next slide, please. To address Bullet A, the plan's success and failures, the failure was the updates were often as the situation was very fluid, especially during June and July, which did cause a lot of frustration on the part of many county employees just trying to keep up with the most current version. As you see, we have listed here how many versions did go out. But unfortunately, due to the circumstances and the nature of the situation, we felt it was just unavoidable to not keep updates going. Another lesson learned is to improve our reporting process if we have such an issue between HR, risk, and management. Some of the successes, the team did everything that we could think of to stay current with recommendations of public health and the CDC, as well as keep our protocol in compliance with the governor's executive orders. And I mean, we do say it, but I'll say it again, Team Henry did pull together during this. Next slide. To address Bullet B, specific failures of the implementation and enforcement of policies, as mentioned before, the updates were often, the situation was very fluid, and it did cause some frustration. Employees not reading, I'll be honest, was part of the problem. We sent out a lot of protocols, there was a lot of emails, and folks just got tired of reading our emails. I get it, it was frustrating, but it was, you know, from this side as well. Again, another issue is complacency. Public safety personnel have seen and heard the below 100 message for years, but it can really apply to everyone. Complacency does kill, and employees need to remain committed to following the recommended safety protocols and procedures. Next. Item 4, the resolution speaks to the requirements of wearing face coverings while in any Henry County building. From the first employee COVID-19 protocol that went out in April, it has been a requirement that all employees wear face covering. Because of the governor's executive orders changing, we tried to stay in line with that. As of today, his executive order says that we can mandate the public to wear masks. So we're following those guidelines. But again, that we tried to change when that changes. Next slide. The resolution did not ask to list our successes, and although not part of the resolution, we feel it's very important to point out some of the things that we as a team feel that went really well. We placed flyers, posters, and signs throughout all county buildings. We sent out numerous emails to all staff. We sent copies of the updated protocol to every employee. We fogged county buildings and transit buses. We redesigned offices and workspace. We installed plexiglass in a lot of areas. We temporarily closed certain offices to the public and or to employees. We did some teleworking where it was feasible. Senior leadership spoke with Department of Public Health and other state officials on a daily basis. EMA sent out numerous reports daily, and senior leadership stayed on top of the governor's executive orders so that we would be in compliance with state regulations. Next. So any questions for risk, for management?
Okay, well, we thank you, Ms. LaFontaine, for that presentation. I've got a comment, but I wanted to see if there's any comments from the board.
Thank you.
Well, I do want to just commend the staff, Team Henry, for all that you've done to make sure that our buildings are remaining safe for our public that has been coming in, for our employees, and we do understand the dynamics of why things have been changing. But I will tell you, I feel safer here than other places that I have gone. I'm actually here now in the building. And again, just appreciate, sometimes I see that there's been improvements made from one day to the next, and do want to commend you all for that. And the key, again, is to remind everyone that we, even elected officials, have got to follow the protocol, wearing our mask and social distancing, and you've got my commitment to follow the process that you have here. So I just want to commend you all for what you're doing to keep everybody safe and keep everybody informed. So thank you again, county management and all of the team that's making sure that everyone is safe as well. Any other comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, we'll now move into the commissioner comments. So at this time, we'll open it up. District 1, any comments? Okay, District 2. District 3. District 4.
Yes, I do want to make some comments about today's meeting and where we are. Thank you to the risk management for your report and what you're doing to try to make sure we stay safe. I think you did say that we can mandate masks in public places, and we need to start considering some of that as Georgia numbers continue to increase of COVID victims out there. And remind everyone that COVID-19 is still killing. In addition to that, I must say I am still disappointed that we were not able to fund the DA's office today. I'm looking forward to bringing that conversation back to the Board of Commissioners. There is no way that I can rest well today, tonight, or any other day, knowing the cases that are on his desk. Some of the ones that he described to us are just horrific. And I am going to be asking that we find a way to get this back on the agenda before the next meeting. If we have to do a call meeting or what necessary, let it focus on that particular department, because he has vividly described his needs. So I wanted to say my disappointment in that we could not move on that today. I do want to ask the management to go ahead now expeditiously, get some information out to all the commissioners via email, the cost that it will incur to support the request that he has made, so that we can start making decisions about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very good. District 5. Okay. My comments are very similar. I will look to the county manager. There will be a special call meeting once she's able to go back and prepare a discussion based on the comments that came from this board today. And the special call meeting, in my opinion, will be about the DA, but it's also to talk about the other public safety matters at hand. So just look forward, board, for more discussions and look forward to a special call meeting. We'll try to coordinate with the calendars, because I know do a better job coordinating with your calendars so that, again, we can expect at least a quorum on that day. So that was one of my comments. The other thing is based on what we've had discussions about, and glad to see what the county team has done to make sure that we're COVID safe or safer. I need to know, just expect that in a future meeting, as soon as possible, we will be moving back to in-person meetings with the Board of Commissioners. They've done a good job setting us up for social distancing, making sure that we're safe. And again, we've got to do our part of wearing masks. So as soon as we can do that, we'll share that date with the board. The other thing is I wanted to spend some time just quickly. I want to commend the county management team and their staff. Y'all are working so hard continuously. And I just wanted to continue to commend our employees as y'all are working hard for every day. I do ask that anyone who has any feedback or constructive feedback for the county manager, for an employee, just like we ask the public, please talk to those individuals so that they can make the necessary improvements or to address the questions that you or us may have. We as board have an opportunity before this agenda and before the meeting to ask questions, to do some research, and to even give feedback. And I just ask that we do that out of respect of this county management team and the whole staff, because they are so committed to trying to make sure that we as commissioners, or even those who are out there in the public, or their concerns are being addressed. So I make that comment. And then my final comment goes back to COVID-19. We're about to approach a Labor Day weekend. And I just encourage each and every one of us to continue to wear the mask and practice social distancing so that, again, that we're keeping our loved ones safe, but also that of our family members. So just as we did prior to the 4th of July, I just ask again that even we as leaders continue to reemphasize the need and the CDC guidelines so that we can continue to, at the end of the day, reduce the deaths and to also keep everybody comfortable. So I just wanted to send that reminder as well. So that concludes my comments. And at this time, we'll move to the next agenda item regarding the upcoming meetings and events. Our next meeting is going to be September 15th at 6:30 p.m., which is a regular Board of Commissioners meeting. And then on October the 6th at 9 o'clock is a regular Board of Commissioners meeting. And again, as we just stated, there will be, I will call a special call meeting soon after we've had an opportunity to get some input from the county manager and to coordinate with calendars as best as we can. So at this time now, we'll move to the final item, which is to adjourn this Board of Commissioners meeting. The floor is now open for a motion to adjourn. I see Commissioner Holmes. I see a second by Commissioner Clemens. Any further discussion? All in favor of adjournment, please signal by raising your hand. Thank you all, and thank you for a good conversation of discussions today.